Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. I have set my skills to the limit. Chapter 1. White, really white. With this figure, I don't know which kid will be cheaper in the future. However, let me take advantage of it now. Haha. It would be even better if you can handle it. This figure, this line, this fullness, it must be very flexible. On the roof of the women's bathhouse in Muya village, an 11 or 12-year-old boy with delicate features was secretly lying outside and peeking through a small hole, swallowing, his face flushed with excitement and his mouth dry. Although Shenyi still looks like a child, but he knows a lot. Because, he is a person who traveled from the earth. When Shenyi was on earth, his mind was already mature. As a result, when I was watching Naruto anime, I didn't expect to travel through it all of a sudden. Moreover, after crossing over, it fell directly from the sky onto the roof of the women's bathhouse. The body also turned into the appearance of a child. Originally, Shenyi was still cursing, but after seeing scenes from the small hole that couldn't be seen in the movies, he suddenly became excited. This crossing is worth it. Most of the women in the Naruto world women's bathhouse maintain an extremely good figure. They are not only slender, but also have a charming waistcoat line. They are thin but have lines, and their skin is also elastic. Just looking at it made Shenyi feel restless. In particular, there are a few beautiful ninjas he has seen in anime. For example, Hinata's mother, Tsukiho Hyuga, Sasuke Uchiha's mother, Makoto Uchiha, and the upright and pure plump sister Tsunade. Shenyi traveled to an earlier era, so these beauties are not particularly old, and they are all in their youth. Especially Uchiha Makoto, who is about the same age as the current Kamiya, with the appearance of a Lolita, the face of a goddess, and smooth and clear skin. While watching, suddenly, Uchiha Makoto noticed something, frowned and looked over the roof. Seeing this, Mikan's cute face suddenly flashed panic, and then, her whole fair and tender face flushed, she quickly covered her flat chest, and shouted in panic, "Ah! There, someone is peeping." As soon as the words came out, the other women also panicked, and each of them quickly covered their chests, their faces flushed, and they screamed in panic. "What? Is someone peeping? Who's peeping there? I'm going to gouge out the eyes of the peeking people." Most of the people in the women's bathhouse are ninjas. So many women heard about it, wrapped themselves in bath towels, and angrily wanted to go out and catch the peeping thief. At this time, the men's bathhouse was also alarmed by the noise from the women's bathhouse. At the same time, the ninjas in the men's bathhouse were shocked, angry, and very jealous. They have never seen the figures of those female ninjas, so why should they be seen by other men? In my heart, I suddenly became unbalanced. What? Someone dares to spy on the women's bathhouse? My goddesses are all bathing in the bathhouse. This kind of fool who peeped at the body of our goddess must not be allowed to live in this world. Go out and kill that peeping fool. Everyone in the men's bathhouse also put on their clothes one after another, and wanted to go out to catch Shenyi. Trench digging. Found. Shenyi's face turned pale with fright. If this is caught, it will be dead. But, it's so high, I can't go down. Shenyi looked bitter. The height of the roof is extremely easy for the ninja, but he is still an ordinary person now. Not even a golden finger. If you want to jump down, you will die. What kind of time travel is this? Once time travel's over, you will die. You may also be beaten to death with a random stick. God, can you stop playing with me like this? Shenyi forced a face, almost crying. Ding. Found the traverser, the stealth system, successfully bound. The stealing system. Do I have a cheat? Shenyi heard that, his eyes lit up, and said, "System. Hurry up, take me away from this place, otherwise, I will be beaten to death immediately." Ding. This system can only assist the host, and cannot perform actual actions. Shenyi anxiously said, "Then what ability can you give me? Let me escape from this place as soon as possible." Ding. This system is a stealth system, which can give the host the ability to steal like a god, and even steal other people's ninjutsu skills, blood inheritance boundaries, etc. Being able to steal skills is such a fraud. It's developed. Shenyi suddenly became excited. With the blessing of this system, he still can't dominate the world. The heavenly king Lao Su is here, so he doesn't have to be afraid. Ding. Remind the host's ability is low, and the grasping ability is limited. Currently, only physical contact can be used to grasp the target person's ability. The success rate of each grasping ability is 3%, and the grasping ability is random. After the grasping is successful, a 12-hour cooling time is required before it can be grasped again. Reminder: the success rate of grabbing, as well as the number of successful grabs per day, will increase with the improvement of the host's ability. Just when Shen Yi was excited, the system voice came again coldly. Suddenly, it was like a basin of ice water was poured on Shen Yi's head. This shit, isn't it cheating? Now unless I grab some heaven-defying ability, I will die. Moreover, I need to touch my body. Didn't everyone beat me up already? Shen Yi looked bitter. In this system, it's fine to let yourself cross over the women's bathhouse at the beginning, and to have such a weak ability as to punish yourself to death. Ding. The system has been bound. Please find a way for the host to survive. If the host dies, the system will look for the host again. Shen Yi looked bitter. This system is ruthless. But now that you have traveled through time and things have developed like this, you should calm down. Anyway, he is also a promising young man of the 20th century. Don't be defeated by this difficulty. Calm down, be sure to calm down. Shen Yi reminded himself in his heart. Just thinking about it, many ninjas have already caught up. Those ninjas, holding weapons, light kunai shurikens, looked at Kamiya coldly. Calm down, you're still going to die. Shen Yi almost burst into tears, knelt down and kowtowed to these people. These people are scarier than the gangsters on earth. Asshole, this kid is peeping. You're young, what's wrong with learning? Learn how to peep. This kind of brat, we can't let him grow up. Just finish him here. Otherwise, he will do such nasty things in the future. Our goddess will also be seen by him. Everyone looked at Shen Yi coldly, and said viciously. Shut up. At this time, the upright and pure Tsunade also came up. Although he was only 19 years old, Tsunade at this time was already an elite Jonin, and had even been given the title of Sanin. Coupled with her status as a thousand-handed family. So, as soon as she spoke, everyone fell silent. Is your kid peeping? Tsunade came out and looked at Shen Yado coldly. Tsunade clenched his fist tightly, and the veins on his arm were already bursting. If it weren't for the fact that the other party was a child, with her temper, she would have already punched him. Yes, Tsunade-sama, it's this good-for-nothing kid who is peeping. I suggest, poke his eyes and cripple his lower limbs. Otherwise, he will do it again next time. Suddenly, a 15 or 16-year-old male ninja said coldly. Kamito easily recognized that familiar face. It was Uchiha Fugaku. Fuyu stared at Shen Yi with red eyes. His heart was about to explode. Because, in the women's bathhouse, there is also the woman he likes, Uchiha Makoto. If this kid was really peeping, then his Mikan must have been peeking too. This kid must be abolished in order to relieve the hatred in his heart. Mappy, this guy is really vicious. Labor and management remember you. Shen Yi glared at Uchiha Fugaku viciously, and said in his heart, when labor and capital become stronger, I will definitely beat you up, and get your woman Makoto as my girlfriend. Is it you? Tsunade asked again, this time with a louder voice. Just because she can't bear to make a move on a child doesn't mean she won't make a move. Shenya took 2 deep breaths, and suddenly pretended to be innocent and panicked, and threw himself into Tsunade's soft arms, covering his face in Tsunade's big soft plump breasts, and pretended to cry loudly while eating tofu. Sister, I don't know anything. I really don't know anything. Shen Yi pretends to be a child, pretending to be cute. Of course, he is now a child. At the moment of life and death, he thought of the age advantage he had traveled through. That is, he is just an 11-year-old kid. Moreover, he was just an ordinary child. Tsunade was a little overwhelmed by the sudden Kamiya. Originally, she wanted to push Shen Yi away, but suddenly, she remembered her sacrificed brother. If the younger brother is still alive, he should be at this age, right? Tsunade's heart suddenly softened. After all, this is a child, and he looks only 11 years old. What can he understand? Probably, he wasn't peeking. There is very little chakra in his body. He is not a ninja. On his own, he should not be able to get up. I think it should not be him. Tsunade looked at the female ninjas and explained. Sisters, I really didn't do anything bad. Shenyi pretended to be pitiful and said. The 11-year-old Shenyi has a pair of big black eyes and looks extremely innocent. Coupled with his delicate and flawless appearance, the female ninjas suddenly overflowed with maternal love, couldn't bear to be reprimanded, and at the same time chose to believe in Shenyi. Okay, sisters trust you, it's all right. Don't worry, the sisters will definitely find the real villain. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. The beautiful female ninjas next to him comforted Shenyi. Shenyi was surrounded by these beauties, eating tofu openly. It's cool to have this child's body. But the male ninjas next to him didn't believe it at all. Because they are all men, who are you confused about? It seems that who has never experienced the age of 11. Furthermore, even if you don't understand anything, you must read it. As long as you read it, you will never do it. Uchiha Fugaku's face was cold, and he stepped forward and said, Master Tsunade. You can't believe this guy. If he wasn't peeking, how could he be on the roof? Moreover, there is a small hole on the roof. I'm sure, he is peeping. He must be dealt with. Tsunade frowned slightly and glanced at Uchiha Fugaku, and said, Don't scare the children, let me ask. She said, squatting down, looking at Shenyi tenderly, and said with a smile, Little brother, can you tell sister? Who brought you up? She thought that as long as she could find the person who brought Shenyi up, she would be able to find the real pervert. Tsunade thought about this question very seriously, but Shenyi's eyes were attracted by the deep gully. This guy is too big, too white, too plump. Shenyi's eyeballs almost fell out, but in order not to expose himself, he could only force himself to look away and look at Tsunade with innocent eyes. He thought for a while and said, It was a brother with white hair and wearing a blue shirt and a red vest. He brought me up. He said that he had something good to show me, but he couldn't tell others that he had been here. But before I saw it, that brother suddenly disappeared, and then you all came up. White hair, blue shirt, and red vest. When Tsunade heard this, his face immediately turned black. This shape, isn't it self-made? She knew that Zilai would definitely be able to do such a thing as peeping. And, this is something Zilai also often does. Shenyi also naturally knew that if he said it this way, it must be Jiraiya's fault. This is exactly his purpose. Anyway, Zilai also has a lot of peeps, this matter depends on him, it doesn't matter if there is one more. The big deal is that he will become stronger in the future, so it's better to cover Zilai a little more. As compensation. Shenyi smiled secretly in his heart, but on the surface he pretended to be timid and cowardly, looked at Tsunade with big dark innocent eyes and said, Sister, did I say something wrong? I seem to have accidentally said something to my brother. Tsunade gently stroked Kamiya's head, and softly comforted him, Don't be afraid, you're right, you're wrong, it's that old Jiraiya. Tsunade said, killing intent appeared in his eyes, I must kill that fool. Her white and tender fists were clenched, and she was extremely angry. Jiraiya, that fool, actually used a child as a shield. Simply, not a person. When we meet Jiraiya, we must break his 5 ribs. All the other women were also very angry. No wonder, I said, how can a child peep? HMPH, so it's Jiraiya. This fool, he's always spying on us. Even if he's one of the Sannin, he can't be so lawless. Almost made us wrong, my little brother. Little brother, I'm sorry, did my sister scare you? Don't be afraid, sister kiss. Those female ninjas also believed what Shenyi said, and while attacking Jiraiya with words full of righteous indignation, they comforted Shenyi. Among the women, Shenyi, relying on his identity as a child, ate tofu without restraint. At the same time, secretly activated the thief, trying to capture Tsunade's skills. However, he is not in a hurry. Anyway, he is a child now, and there are still many opportunities to eat tofu. Haha, this wave of crossing is not a loss. Shenyi was extremely excited, and his heart was filled with joy. Eating tofu and becoming stronger will not affect each other. But those male ninjas, seeing Kamiya being comforted by many female ninjas surrounded by Tsunade, were extremely jealous. Gritting his teeth angrily. The current Tsunade is good-looking, youthful, and powerful. I don't know how many people are thinking about it. But he didn't expect that Shenyi would take advantage of it first. There are also those female ninjas who are all beautiful and fair-skinned, and they are all taken advantage of by this kid. Little brother, what's your name? Whose family is it? My sister will send you back. Tsunade knelt down, looked into Shenya's eyes, and said softly. My name is Shenyi, but I have no home, and my parents are gone. Shenyi pretended to be pitiful. No home. This child looks pretty good, how could he have no home? Now is the period of war, many people are killed and injured, and there are many people without homes. Hey, this child is so pitiful. Many female ninjas sighed and looked at the young Shenyi with pity. Tsunade looked at Shenya, and the softness in his heart seemed to be pierced by a thorn. Doesn't she have a home? Since her family, her lover, and her younger brother died, she has no home anymore. Then you can live at my sister's place. It happens to be at my sister's place. There is room available. Tsunade said suddenly. She felt that this child was like her younger brother, and she had an obligation to take in this child. I live with my sister. Shenyi was excited at first, but then she pretended to be sensible and said, isn't this bad? It will cause trouble for my sister, so I still won't go. No, you must live with my sister. Tsunade said seriously. I will also go to Hokage-sama to clarify your identity. At that time, if you want, you can still go to the ninja school. Really, can I go to school? Shenyi pretended to be excited. In fact, it was just to find an excuse to live in Tsunade's house. He is indeed helpless now. If you don't find a place to live, you can only live on the streets. Yes, Tsunade said with a smile, rubbing Shenya's head. That's good. Then I'll live at my sister's house. Shenyi nodded happily. Tsunade looked at the crowd and said, you all go away, I will take this little brother to Hokage-sama to register, that fellow Jiraiya, I will teach you a lesson. Okay Tsunade-sama, when you meet Jiraiya-sama, you must teach him a lesson. You must not let this little brother complain. The beautiful and cute female ninjas held their fists and spoke righteously. Gone. Tsunade knelt down, hugged Shenya, and said, little brother, don't be afraid, sister will take you down. Well, I'm not afraid. In Shenya's heart, he was overjoyed. With Tsunade holding her like that, I'm still scared of the ass. Grasping Tsunade's slender waist, Shenyi silently activates the stealth skill in his heart. Tsunade is one of the Sannin, it would be great if he could steal Tsunade's magical skills. Tsunade's pretty face also blushed slightly when she felt Shenya pressing against her, but she didn't think much about it because Shenyi was a child. Holding Shenyi in his arms, he landed firmly on the ground with a shua. Let's go see Hokage-sama first. Tsunade held Kamiya's little hand, went to Sandai Hokage first, and told Sandai Hokage of his idea of adopting Kamiya. The third generation saw that Kamiya looked cute, and after checking it, he was indeed an ordinary person, and he should not be a little spy sent by the Empire, so he agreed to Tsunade's request, and also agreed to Kamiya to go to the ninja school as a transfer student. Afterwards, Tsunade took Kamiya back home and went to bed. Early in the morning, Shenyi stretched his waist, hiccuped, and woke up beautifully. How cool. Shenyi rubbed his eyes. Last night, he slept with Tsunade in his arms. Not to mention warm, it was soft and fragrant. My body seems to have changed. Shenyi suddenly sensed something. When he crossed over yesterday, he felt that his body was still very weak, but today, he was obviously much stronger. There is an inexplicable power in the body. As if thinking of something, Shenyi quickly asked in his heart, System. Did I capture the skill last night? When he was sleeping last night, he kept touching Tsunade, and the stealth skill was naturally activated. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Last night the host grabbed Tsunade's skills, strange power. The remaining cooling time of the thief, 3 hours. Weird power. Great. Shenyi became excited. This skill is very suitable for him now. Because the current him has not been trained, and the amount of chakra is very small, if he steals other skills, he may not be able to use them. And this strange power belongs to the category of physical skills, and the amount of chakra used does not need to be much, which is very cost-effective. Shenyi, are you up? Hurry up and wash up, let's go out to eat. After dinner, you have to go to the ninja school to report today. Suddenly, Tsunade walked into the room and said with a smile. It is good. Shenyi quickly got up. After washing up, he followed Tsunade to Yule and ate a bowl of hot ramen. After eating and drinking enough, Shenyi went to the ninja school alone to report. Because I came earlier, the teacher in the ninja school class has not come yet. As soon as Shenyi came in, a pair of unfriendly eyes shot towards Shenyi. I heard that this new boy was peeping in the women's bathhouse yesterday. What? This guy is too shameless. Mappy. That's right. I heard that my goddess Hyuga Uxing was taking a bath in the bathhouse yesterday, and this grandson peeked at her. My goddess Mikan is not the same. This kid also saw it. There is also Princess Tsunade, who is also seen by this kid. I have already received the order from Boss Fuyu. Let us teach this kid a lesson, and he will take responsibility if something goes wrong. He is a genius of the Uchiha family, and he will definitely not be punished. Besides, I heard that this kid is a waste, he doesn't know any ninjutsu, and he doesn't even have chakra. When the time comes, he can be taught a lesson. The boys discussed in a low voice, but they didn't shy away from Shenyi too much, and even deliberately said it to Shenyi to hear. Shenyi raised his eyebrows. He didn't take these boys seriously at all. This ninja school guy can't even be considered a ninja. Now that he has strange power, is he still afraid of such a brat? Kamiya looked around, and found that Uchiha Makoto was sitting alone in a small corner in the corner, staring at him silently. The corner of Kamiya's mouth suddenly curled into a smile, and walked towards Makoto with big strides. You, what are you doing here? Makoto was a little shy, and also a little afraid of Kamiya. She is just a little lowly now, and she is a head shorter than Shenyi. When you see Shenyi approaching, you will panic immediately. Don't be afraid, little sister, I'm just looking for a seat to sit down. My name is Shenyi, what's your name? Shenyi grinned and looked at Mikan with a smile. Seeing that Kamiya was so friendly, Makoto felt relieved, and whispered, my name is Uchiha Makoto, please take care of me. Mikan, what a nice name. Shenyi rolled his eyes, and said with a smile, I heard that you are a genius in the class, you should take care of me, I still don't know any ninjutsu, when the time comes, can you teach me? Seeing the sincerity on Shenyi's face, Mikan was too embarrassed to refuse, so she nodded. Just when she was about to say something, suddenly, several boys came over, looked at Shenyi unkindly, and said, boy, get out. This is not a place for you to sit. What? This is your position. Shenyi was chatting with the little lowly Makoto, and these boys suddenly ran over, which made him a little upset. These boys, bother yourself to pick up girls. No. Those few people said arrogantly. It's not your position, so what are you beeping? Stay where it's cool. Shenyi waved his hand dissatisfied, as if disposing of garbage. Those boys became even more angry. This good-for-nothing boy doesn't even pay attention to them. How to put it, they are also quasi-ninja who have studied in ninja school for a long time. Shenyi, who has never attended school this day, dares to speak to them like this. Boy, I think you are looking for a fight. One of them, staring at him, clenched his fist and was about to make a move. Shenyi also raised his eyebrows slightly. If the other party made a move, he would not be polite. Brush and pull. At this moment, the door of the classroom opened suddenly. A friendly-looking man in Chunin costume walked in and said, okay, class is over, everyone go back to your seats and stop making trouble. This man is the teacher in this class, Kazumi Unano. He is also Uno Aruka's father. Teacher Yijao. The boy had no choice but to put down his fist, looked at Shenyi coldly, and said, you are lucky. But boy, I warn you, this Miss Makoto is the fiancée of our boss Uchiha Fugaku. We are going to get married in the future. You nameless boy, if you dare to seduce our sister-in-law, you will die. After finishing speaking, those boys gave Shenyi a look, and obediently returned to their seats at the table. On the other hand, Shenyi pouted indifferently, saying that if Makoto wasn't Uchiha Fugaku's wife, he wouldn't even think about it. Who made that guy yesterday so vicious and wanted to gouge out his eyes? Shenyi, you are here. Unino saw Kamiya at a glance, and he also got the news from the third Hokage, so he recognized it. He smiled faintly at Shenyi and said, Shenyi, come here. Good corner teacher. Shenyi nodded obediently and walked over. Let me introduce to you, this is our new classmate, Kamiya. But he doesn't know ninjutsu at the moment, and he hasn't attended ninja school for a day, so everyone has to take good care of this classmate in the future, understand? Uno Kazuo said to everyone with a warm smile. Don't worry teacher, we will definitely take good care of this student. A few boys looked at Shenyi viciously, and deliberately increased the word, care. Shenyi ignored it, and after returning to his seat, Unino Kazuo began to attend class. The corner of Uno talks about the basic knowledge of ninjas, such as detection, codes, and simple chakra applications. Most of them are learned in ninja schools. In order to take care of Shenyi, he asked Shenyi several times if he understood, and if he didn't understand, he explained it in detail. But Shenyi is still very confused. He was not from this world, so he couldn't understand many things. Forget it, anyway, I can steal other people's skills, and I still need to learn these basic knowledge, strength is king. Shenyi simply didn't listen, and climbed directly on the table. What's wrong? Don't you listen? Makoto turned her head to look at Shenyi and asked. I don't understand, I don't want to hear it anymore. Shenyi sighed, suddenly turned his eyes, looked at Maken with a smile and said, Maken, otherwise, why don't you teach me? Shall I teach you? Maken blushed slightly, and said shyly, I'm afraid I can't teach you well. It's okay, I trust you, Makoto. Shenyi grinned. Maken looked at Shenyi for a moment, then nodded. Anyway, she can master these things in school after listening to them once, and she has learned a lot at home, and she is still in the ninja school, just waiting for graduation. So, Makoto taught patiently. Shenyi pretended to be asking Makoto for advice on the surface, but secretly kept bumping into Makoto. Now that the cooldown of the thief has ended, it would be great if he could steal the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. However, it turns out that his current strength is too low, and the probability of success in stealing is still too low. In one class, she didn't steal any ability, but she ate a lot of tofu from Makoto. It made Maken, that little loli, blushing and embarrassed. The boy next to him was watching there, his eyes were red with anger. This kid is simply a hooligan. If it weren't for the fact that Boss Fuyu is already a Zongnin, it's not good to do anything to this kid, otherwise, this guy would have been a corpse long ago. After school, let's clean up this kid together. The boys discussed viciously. At the end of the day, under Makoto's tireless teaching, Shenyi still understood some things in the ninja world, such as controlling chakra, and it was not completely useless. At the very least, it would allow him to display his strange power better. Thank you, Makoto, today, Shenyi said gratefully from the bottom of her heart. You are welcome. Makoto blushed and smiled slightly. See you tomorrow. Kamito waved at Makoto, and left the ninja school first. In my heart, I can't wait to find a place to try to control my chakra, and then use my strange power to see how strong I can be. Boy, stop. Not long after they left, a few boys called Shenyi to stop viciously. What? Shenyi stopped. Why, you kid, you offended Mrs. Maken. You can't leave today. Those boys looked at Shenyi viciously, and were about to make a move. Go away. Don't take it as my way, otherwise, I will be rude to you. Shenyi said with some displeasure. He was too lazy to do anything with just these little brats. Otherwise, if you can't control your strength well, it will be bad if you are not dead or disabled. What did you say? You're being rude to us. When the boys heard this, they immediately laughed. This kid just came to school, so he probably doesn't even know how to control chakra. Even if he knows how to control chakra, he doesn't know ninjutsu or even taijutsu. Still want to be rude to them. Boy, I'm not pretending. I'm standing here, if you punch me, you can hurt me, I'll not only let you go, but I'll call you dad. One of the boys, who was a head taller than Shenyi, looked at Shenyi with disdain. He was the first to enter the ninja academy, and he was with Fuyu, so his own ability is not bad. In his opinion, this Kamiya has never been to ninja school, just like a newborn child. Let alone one punch, let Shenyi hit 10 punches, and it won't hurt him a bit. Shenyi heard it, but smiled. He raised his eyebrows, looked at the boy and said, is what you said true? I, Miyamoto Izuzo, will never break my promise. The tall and thin boy said proudly. Go away. Shenyi grinned, and then slapped him out. That Miyamoto Izuzo was extremely confident, he was not willing to hide at all, and stood there with his head held high. 1 second he was full of arrogance, but the next second, his face suddenly twisted. Before he even had time to scream, the whole person flew out quickly. With a bang, he hit the big tree next to him, and the boy stopped and spat out a mouthful of blood. This. How is this possible? Miyamoto Izuzo was spitting blood from his mouth, and he was so shocked that he was speechless. How could this boy who has never been to a ninja school have such strange powers? Hey, it's better to take it away. Shenya sighed, smiled slightly and said to Miyamoto Izuzo, I'm sorry, son. He also made a special emphasis on the word, son. When Miyamoto Izuzo heard these two words, shame and humiliation immediately made him furious. Come on with me and kill him. Miyamoto Izuzo roared angrily. Shenyi frowned when he heard this, and said, your son is not only untrustworthy but also disrespectful to father. Kill him. Miyamoto Izuzo roared again. Immediately, his companion fiercely attacked Shenyi. Those who don't want to fly, go away. Shenyi's face turned cold, and he stomped his feet on the ground. Kaka. On the ground, cracks like spider webs appeared. The boys who wanted to kill just now turned pale. This kid, has he never been to Ninja Academy? Don't know ninjutsu and gymnastics. But why, he has such strange power. You know, this kind of strange power, at the very least, is only at the ninja level. And they haven't graduated yet. Not to mention the strength of ninja level. Those boys stood there in a daze, their legs were a little weak. Roll, Shenyi yelled again. The few boys suddenly reacted and ran away scrambling. Seeing that his teammates were gone, Miyamoto Izuzo was also afraid of Shenya, so the two hurriedly supported their injuries and ran away. This group of fools, I must clean up. Shenyi pouted unhappily. Fighting against such a weak child, he still has to stop, it's not fun at all. You have to find a master. As he thought about it, he pushed hard on the soles of his feet and stood directly on the tree. Just as he was about to jump off the tree and leave, a voice behind him almost made him fall from the tree in fright. God Knight. Makoto, you. Why are you here? Shenyi was startled and smiled awkwardly. He said in front of this little loli that he doesn't know anything. It's really embarrassing to show your strength now. Do you know physical skills? Makoto looked at Shenyi with some strange eyes. No, it's Mikan who taught me chakra control today, so I can be so powerful, I have to thank you. Shenyi smiled obsequiously. Mikan's eyes made him feel a little chilly. But I can also control chakra, but I can't do it when I shatter the ground with one kick. Your physical skills have always been so powerful. Mikan clenched her fists tightly and said, judging by her emotions, she seemed a little excited. Then maybe I'm a physical genius. Shenyi scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. He was a little puzzled. Why is this girl so excited? The person who peeked yesterday was not Zaraya-sama, but you. Mikan said suddenly. Her pretty face was a little red. What? Shenyi was shocked when he heard that. This little loli, what brain circuit? Just seeing that I showed a little bit of strength, I knew I was the one who peeked at it yesterday. It's a pity that this guy didn't become Detective Conan. No, it's really not me. Shenyi quickly waved his hand. He can't admit this. I know your eyes, you must have been peeping yesterday. Mikan blushed, looked at Shenyi with a frown and said, yesterday, you didn't show off your physical skills. I'm not sure it was you, but you just jumped the tree so easily. You must have jumped on the roof of the women's bathhouse yesterday. Are you hiding your strength? Who are you? Really, yesterday, I really didn't have the strength. Shenyi was about to cry. This little girl, Mikan, has wonderful eyes too. He was on the roof, can you remember his eyes? However, he really wasn't completely lying. Yesterday, if he had that strength, he would have already run away. Why are you waiting to be caught? What did you see? Mei Chin blushed and asked, did you see me? Where did you see me? I do not have. Shenyi's head was sweating, and he quickly waved his hands. I really didn't see anything. I didn't see that little red birthmark on your butt at all. I don't know. You did see it. Mikan's face turned even redder. Her big black eyes were about to burst into tears. She is a girl, and her family told her since she was a child that she should not be seen by other boys easily, but now she was seen by Shenyi, and what she saw was such a private place. Moreover, it can be seen so clearly. She even saw the birthmark on her ass. How will she behave in the future? Makoto's mouth was deflated, and she was almost about to cry. I slipped my tongue. Shenyi was startled, and quickly explained, No, Master Jiraiya told me this. I was too nervous just now, and accidentally said all the details. It was also because he was so impressed with yesterday's scene, so he subconsciously said it. You're still lying. Makin's eyes were red, and she clenched her fists tightly. I didn't. Shen Yi was powerless to refute. He looked at Miken's angry and wronged expression, and said with some guilt, "Ah. By the way, I still have something to do. I'll go first. Bye." After finishing speaking, Shen Yi didn't dare to stay at all, kicked the tree trunk hard, and with a swish, rushed to the distance. It's over, this is terrible. Shen Yi ran quickly, sweating all over his head. If this matter is revealed by Maken, he will definitely die. At that time, not only Uchiha's people will kill him, but even Tsunade may kill him. Could it be that I just got off at Konoha Anza, and I'm going to live in another place? Shen Yi was about to cry. In this era, except for Konoha, which is peaceful and safe, other places are extremely dangerous. He has a strange power now. If he leaves Muya village, he will have a new way of thinking. But it still can't kill Maken, right? After all, Maken is still very good looking, and he is going to marry Maken as his wife. So, what should I do? Shen Yi looked bitter. While running, he was thinking about how to deal with this matter, when suddenly, he heard a scream. Shen Yi frowned, a little confused about the situation. Just about to get rid of the embarrassment of being discovered by Maken, but encountered such a thing. Besides, this voice sounds very familiar. It seems to be the little guy who screamed in the women's bathhouse that day. Thoughts flashed through his mind, and Shen Yi decided to go and check what happened. Just do what you said and do it. With brisk steps under your feet, Shen Yi quickly ran over there. From a distance, he saw two figures in the corner of the woods. It was a guy wearing a mask who cornered a little girl, as if preparing to do something wrong. Hemp-skinned, is there any king's law in broad daylight and bright heaven and earth? The masked guy was attracted by the sudden voice, but found out that it was a child who was only a few years old. Where did the wild child come from? This guy is looking down on this body, it's really the same as Conan. Shen Yi shook his head helplessly, stood with his hands behind his back and sighed twice. At this time, it is still unclear about this guy's strength, and a rash shot may end in a bad end. So Shen Yi decided to continue to observe the situation, looking for the critical opportunity to make a move at any time. Looking at your attire, you're from the Onbi of Konoha village, right? You're not afraid of Hokage's sanction for actually attacking a girl from the same village. Sanctify me. As long as you two live here, who would know what I did? It seems that this guy from Anbu is ready to do something, and he won't leave any evidence at all. But since this matter was bumped into by Shen Yi, the final result is that the hero can only save the beauty, otherwise it would be a waste to travel to this world. If it weren't for the very few abilities he has now, Shen Yi would have slapped this guy aside without hesitation. This guy Anbu obviously didn't pay attention to Shen Yi. He waved his hand and released a restraint to firmly control the little girl, and then he was about to get up. As the masked man stood up little by little, Shen Yi finally saw the little girl's face clearly. In the middle of the pure natural face is a pair of dark eyes. It's the mother of the big beauty Hinata. No wonder Hinata can be so beautiful. Shen Yi muttered secretly in his heart, but at this time the masked man was ready to attack Shen Yi. The chakra visible to the naked eye exploded around his body, and a layer of tension condensed in the air. Hidden in the corner stared at Yuexing and looked at Shen Yi. She has already recognized the identity of Shen Yi, who was the guy who peeked at everyone's bath from the roof that day. But he couldn't figure out why this wretched guy would stand up at this time. Go to hell, brat, the masked man shouted loudly, but his heart was full of contempt for Shen Yi. It's just a child, he doesn't need to use all his strength at all, a shuriken is enough to settle it. Two shuriken sounds appeared, and two shurikens flew through the air. The corner of Shen Yi's mouth raised slightly. In fact, the moment the masked guy stood up, he had already thought of a countermeasure. Anyone would let their guard down after this small body of their own, and this is the perfect time to fight back. Strange power, come out. Shen Yi clenched his fists and concentrated all his strength on it, and slammed towards the shuriken in the air. A rumbling sound came out in the air, like a sonic boom rang in the ears of the guy in the mask. I didn't expect that you, this guy, still have some abilities. I will let you two go temporarily today, and I won't be so lucky next time. After throwing a harsh word, the masked guy quickly ran away from the scene, and Shen-Yi snorted coldly, jumped to Hyuga Uxing's side and pulled her up. Shen-Yi looked at his fist, and couldn't help admiring Tsunade's supernatural power. Are you injured? I'm fine, but why did you suddenly appear here? If I remember correctly, you were obviously with Makoto. Shen-Yi scratched his head in embarrassment. He must not let Hinata Tsukihose know about the unhappiness he had with Makoto just now. Although Yu Xing is not in the grade, she has a pair of eyes that can see through affairs, and she already has some eyebrows in her heart. By the way, why did this guy stop you here? His attire seems to be a ninja from our Konoha village. Hyuga Uxing nodded undeniably. That guy is indeed from the village, and his identity and status are not ordinary. He is a member of Anbu from the village. There is a very mysterious existence there, and there are some extremely greedy guys. In this way, I probably know what his purpose is. While speaking, Shen-Yi shifted his gaze to the white eyes of Hyuga Moonstar little by little. The four eyes met, a burning feeling came out of Hyuga Uxing's mind, so he dodged his eyes subconsciously. Shen-Yi smiled and shook his head, but didn't say much. While looking up and down Hyuga Uxing, all kinds of things about her emerged in Shen-Yi's memory. At this moment, she is a 14-year-old female ninja, and her talent in cultivation is almost the bottom of the whole family. Even so, in Ninja Academy, Hyuga Tsukiho can still occupy the title of master. What? Haven't seen enough? Shen-Yi froze for a moment, not understanding what Hyuga Uxing's sudden words were trying to express. Hito Uxing waved his hands and shook his head. I'm just curious, why you can suddenly become so much stronger, when you were obviously a weak child before that. To tell you the truth, I can only use this trick now, and it can only be used once in a period of time. Hyuki nodded to Uxing. In fact, through Bayan's ability, she could see through Shenya's state at this time, whether it was the chakra storage or the body's meridians. In any case, I still have to thank you. If you hadn't appeared suddenly, that hateful person might have succeeded. As if seeing through Shen-Yi's thoughts, Hyuga Uxing suddenly took a step forward and approached Shen-Yi. The four eyes were facing each other in the air again. Shen-Yi was a little at a loss this time. Why did you lean over all of a sudden? Tell me, is it you who was peeping on the roof that day? With a hint of indisputability, Hyuga Uxing stared at Shen-Yi for a moment. Under such eyes and body distance, Shen-Yi's face turned red instantly, never expecting that Hyuga Uxing also knew about this matter. For a moment, Shen-Yi didn't know what to say. You don't have to lie, my eyes are brighter than Miken's. The moment I saw you again, I was sure it was you. Shen-Yi scratched his head in embarrassment. It seemed that there was no way to refute it. After all, the miraculous pupil techniques in the entire ninja world are all in Muya village, and I happened to encounter them one after another. Actually, I have an unspeakable secret. I don't really want to spy on you. Yu Xing rolled his eyes at Yi. Originally this was an unforgivable thing, but at this moment, he couldn't raise an atmosphere towards Shen-Yi in his heart. Anyway, this guy has just saved himself, so he has to keep the whole secret for him out of emotion and reason. Seeing Yu Xing's expression, Shen-Yi became more and more embarrassed, and unconsciously his face turned slightly red. Why are you blushing all of a sudden? Don't worry, I won't expose you. Let's get out of here quickly. If that guy reacts, he will suffer. Uxing nodded. Continuing to stay here is not a perfect solution, and the matter about Anbu still needs to be reported to Hokage-sama. Shen-Yi was worried that Uxing would feel scared because of what happened just now, so she took her hand. Feeling the sudden touch on his hand, Yu Xing froze for a moment but did not reject Shen-Yi. Traveling through the woods, Yu Xing's attitude towards Shen-Yi changed little by little. No matter how it seemed, he and the voyeur could not be identified as the same person. Subconsciously, Yu Xing hoped that the guy that day was Jiraiya. After a while, Shen-Yi and Yu Xing walked into the village, and jumped towards Hokage's office without any hesitation. From a distance, Tsunade saw the figures of these two guys. Why are the two of them holding hands together? I want to follow up to find out. Tsunade's eyes tightened, and he quietly followed behind Shen-Yi. The hesitation was too focused, and Shen-Yi and Yu Xing didn't even notice Tsunade who was following closely behind them. Shen-Yi, Yu Xing. Why are you two together? The sudden sound from the left made Yu Xing flustered, and she hurriedly broke away from Shen Yi's hand. Shen Yi grinned and raised his hand to scratch his head to relieve the embarrassment, and turned his head to see that it was the third Hokage. Third Hokage-sama, the two of us have something very important to report to you, but we didn't expect you to be here. Oh, tell me what happened. Sandai Hokage smacked the cigarette pouch on his hand. In his mind, he didn't think that these two children had any important matters. After all, they were still studying in Ninja Academy. Shen Yi took a long breath, raised his head and looked at Yu Xing. Tsunade, who had been following the two of them, realized that something was wrong, so he quickened his pace and came to Shen Yi's side. Just outside the village, Yu Xing was attacked by members of the Anbu in the village, who wanted to take off her white eyes and keep them for himself. Tsunade frowned, not expecting to hear such news just after arriving here. Looking up at Sandai Hokage, he found that there was no expression on his face, as if he had already thought of such a thing. I already know about this matter, you three go back first, I will deal with it. After all, Sandai Hokage turned around and walked towards the office, leaving the three of them staring at each other. As Sarutobi Hiruzen's back got farther and farther away, Kamiya frowned. Sarutobi Hiruzen that I have learned is really thinking of the village wholeheartedly, but also very selfishly thinking of the village. I don't believe this old guy will handle it well, let's go to Danzo. Kamido took Tsunade and Uexing and walked towards Onbi, not caring what happened next. On the contrary, Tsunade and Uexing looked at each other, thinking that Kamiya's method was a bit abrupt, and only the third Hokage could handle this matter with ease. I have a hunch that we'll meet the third Hokage-sama there. That old guy might be ready to watch the fun in the office at this time. Anbu is the most important thing in the village, so he won't offend us because of us. Yu Xing frowned. What Shen Yi said was not unreasonable. Anbu is an organization that escaped from Hokage's control, but serves the village. You three little guys still can't bear to come over and check it out yourself. Third Hokage-sama, you are here too. I have already spread the story of Anbu's rebellion in the village. I will never forgive the guy who attacked my fellow villagers. Shen Yi nodded. The image of Sarutobi Hiruzen had undergone some changes in his heart. It was not the cold-blooded and ruthless machine that guarded the village. However, at this time, Danzo, who had been managing Anbu, suddenly rushed out, ran up to Sarutobi Hiruzen and looked at him. There was a tense atmosphere in the air, and Shenye felt some coercion gradually rising around his body. Why do you think that there is rebellion among my Anbu members? Do you rely on the words of these two children? The third Hokage smiled, and mobilized the chakra in his body to appear around Kamiya and Uexing, relieving the pressure on the two of them. Shouting and screaming scared the children. Danzo turned his head to look, his eyes were firmly on Shen Yi's body. This guy must have brought the enemy into the village. Nothing happened before he appeared. You fart. Shen Yi is just a child, how could he show up in the village with the enemy? Hearing what happened to Uexing, Tsunade was originally worried about Shenya's safety, but now he was slandered by Danzo, so he was naturally angry. On the contrary, Sandai Hokage had a smile on his face, and walked calmly between Shenya and Danzo. Since I have agreed to this child's settlement in the village, I will not doubt him, and he just saved the little princess of the Hyuga family. Yu Xing nodded and quickly stood up. She is probably the only one who can prove Shen Yi's innocence at this moment. I testify. Just now, Shen Yi was almost injured in order to save me, and that guy has already admitted that he is a member of Anbu in the village. Danzo was speechless for a while. In fact, he already had the answer in his heart, but he didn't want to fall into the hands of this child. The corner of Shenya's mouth raised slightly, and he looked at Danzo provocatively. He knew that he would have a battle with Danzo sooner or later, and the result would depend on Danzo's performance. You brat, one day I will crush you to death in the palm of my hand. There are still many people around. Danzo can only hate Shenya 10,000 times in his heart. The matter had probably been dealt with, so Shenye bid farewell to the third Hokage and prepared to go home. Recently, you guys in the village should be careful. I have found a suitable person to deal with the matter of rebellion. I believe there will be a result soon. Gone. Tsunade hugged Shen Yi in his arms and walked towards home, just in time to deliver Yu Xing to the door of the house. Feeling the warmth from his hand again, Shen Yi felt that it was all worth it. The softness of Tsunade's body is what everyone dreams of, but now it can appear in the hands at any time. Already accustomed to Shenya's small movements, Tsunade didn't show any strange behavior, and accepted the feeling on his waist very calmly. All of this was seen by Yu Xing beside her. She with white eyes could see it very clearly. She couldn't help but give Shenya a white look. At the same time, the moon and the stars are very different, and Tsunade is able to tolerate such unreasonable troubles like Shenya, but thinking about it carefully, in Tsunade's eyes, Shenya is just a child. Anyone who sees fair skin will immediately fall in love with it. What the hell am I thinking about? He just saved me. Yu Xing shook her head quickly, stopping her strange thoughts. Yu Xing, we've arrived at your door. You should be more careful recently. You are still very dangerous before the traitor is caught. Don't worry Tsunade-sama, I won't let that guy succeed a second time. Then we'll see you next time. Kamido leaned on Tsunade's shoulder and waved his little hand. Yu Xing nodded and ran into his home bouncing around. The situation here is all happy and harmonious, but Danzo, who returned to Anbu, was holding a breath in his heart. Even though Shenya is only a child now, he is still blacklisted in Danzo's heart, and he will be eradicated one day. Of course, Shenyi was still not clear about all this. At this moment he could only feel the softness of his hands, and his movements became more and more presumptuous. Tsunade frowned but didn't say anything. He just acted like a child who was ignorant. Coincidentally at this time, a fiery figure appeared head-on, and Tsunade fixed his eyes on Jiraiya. Hey, what are you voyeurs in such a hurry to do? Do you still want to go to the next women's bathhouse to peep? Hearing Tsunade's voice, Jiraiya stopped and quickly waved his hands. The third-generation master said that there was a rebellion in the village, and he was going to send me to arrest it. Now go to the third-generation master to find out the situation. Tsunade curled his lips and put Kamiya on the ground, taking advantage of the situation where Jiraiya was not prepared at all. He directly waved his hand and hit him in the face. Strange power burst out from Tsunade's fist, and Jiraiya fell backwards. After a few tumblings, Jiraiya looked up at Tsunade with a puzzled expression. His hands were holding his slightly swollen face, his eyes were full of bewilderment. Why did you hit me all of a sudden? You still have the nerve to ask me what's going on. Look at the trick. Involuntarily, Tsunade raised his fist again and rushed in the direction of Jiraiya. The sound of jingle jingle lingered in Shenya's ears. Shenyi sighed helplessly in his heart. This guy can only be blamed by Jiraiya. After several bombings, Jiraiya has also turned into a pig's head. However, from Shenya's point of view, Jiraiya didn't have anything else wrong except for some swollen face. It seemed that this little injury was not worth mentioning to him at all. Now you have practiced the ability to not be afraid of fighting. Boring. Leaving behind a handsome figure, Tsunade clapped his hands and continued walking towards his home. Shenyi looked left and right, and decided to go forward to comfort Zilai's young heart, and the beating was considered to be for himself. Brother Jiraiya, I absolutely believe in your character. Elder sister Tsunade must have made a mistake. How could an honest gentleman like you peep? That's right, recently I've been continuing to write my intimate paradise at home. Even if I peeped a few times, Tsunade hasn't noticed it. Seeing Zilai's confident expression stroking his chin, Shenye suddenly felt that the beating just now was the right thing to do. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Last night the host grabbed the Jiraiya skill, fairy mode. The remaining cooldown time of the thief, 3 hours. The sound of the system appeared in Shenyi's mind without warning. Brother Jiraiya, go to the office alone, I still have things to do, bye. There was no time to chat with Zilai too much. Shenyi ran towards the house in a hurry. He is proficient in the original work, and he knows how powerful the fairy mode is, and even his small body can play a huge role. The first thing he did when he got home was to lock himself in the room, completely ignoring Tsunade's shout. What is this brat doing? Could it be that Jiraiya gave him the little book he wrote? Sister Tsunade, you can eat dinner by yourself, I have some very important things to do. Kamiya's voice came from the room, and Tsunade had no choice but to respond. Looking at the food on the table, Tsunade lost his appetite in an instant, and then leaned on the sofa and fell into a drowsy sleep. Shenyi in the room was mobilizing the chakras one by one according to the moves in his mind, and the natural forces around him rushed into his body. After several reincarnations, Shenye wiped his sweat-stained forehead, and couldn't help but marvel at the magic of the fairy mode. However, at this time, it is not possible to release the sage mode like Jiraiya, but it can be continuously absorbed through it to expand its own chakra reserves. At this time, the moon was already hanging high in the sky outside the window. Shenyi stretched his body twice, then lay down on the bed and slowly closed his eyes. In the blink of an eye the next morning came. Shenye opened his hazy eyes and found that a pair of clear eyes were only a few centimeters away from him. Sister Tsunade, why did you suddenly appear in front of my bed? I've been here for a long time, and I can't bear to wake you up seeing you sleeping soundly. But I still have to go to school today. It's almost too late. Shenyi stood up from the bed with a carp, and ran towards the school in a hurry without even thinking about having a bite of breakfast. Along the way, Shenye was worried about one thing, for fear that Maken would reveal to everyone that he was peeping in a women's bathhouse. However, after coming to Ninja Academy, Shenyi found that everyone looked at him very kindly, as if the matter had not been exposed. Before the matter was exposed, Shenyi quickly came to Miken's side to explain. Seeing Shenyi walking towards her step by step, Miken's face was full of disgust, and she didn't want to pay attention to this guy at all. But in front of many classmates, Miken couldn't explain the matter directly, so she could only quietly wait for Shenyi to approach. About the peeping that day, I still have something to say to you. In the face of absolute facts, what else do you want to say? Shenyi shook her head and looked at Yu Xing, who was sitting in the distance. Because her cultivation qualifications were lower than others, she sat at the back of the classroom. In the entire ninja world, Konoha village is already a very kind village, but it also has its own status. Strong, superior and weak, even in a small ninja academy is still vividly reflected. I swear that I wasn't the one who peeped that day. Hyuki Xing can help me to testify. She has white eyes. Hey, I don't want to continue arguing with you on this matter. Miken gently pushed Shenyi away and walked towards her seat. It was the greatest kindness to Shenyi not to expose the matter until now. The reason why Miken is so sure that that day is Kamiya is because she has seen his experience on the one hand, and the most important thing is that she has already verified it with Jiraiya. On the day when a voyeur appeared on the roof of the women's bathhouse, Zilai was also looking for inspiration for kissing heaven in his own home. Between a child who has just appeared for a few days and a ninja who has become famous in the village, Miken chooses to believe in the latter. Shenye knew that it would be useless to continue explaining, so she simply facilitated the free development of life and things, and slowly looked for opportunities to make amends. And continuing to pester Miken, it is very likely that this guy will be irritated, and he will blatantly publicize that he is a voyeur. Dingling, jingling. When the class bell rang in a hurry, Shenye took a deep look at Miken and hurried back to her seat, waiting until the teacher appeared today. A few minutes later, a strange face walked into the classroom, followed by a guy from the Uchiha family. His eyes wandered around, as if looking for something. Shenyi was stunned. Isn't this guy Fugaku Uchiha? Why did he come to Ninja Academy to face some children for no reason? Everyone, don't overdo it. Today we are going to have an outdoor practical class, but student Shenyi just came to the academy not long ago, so he won't participate today. You fool, you actually look down on me. Not one of the people here is my opponent. Shenyi's heart was full of contempt, but she didn't show any strangeness on her face, she just nodded slightly. On the contrary, Uchiha Fugaku waved his hand and did not agree with the teacher's approach. I came here this time with the approval of the 3 generations of adults. I came here specially to check on everyone's cultivation, and more importantly, to mention something to our new classmates. Uchiha Fugaku looked at Kamiya with a smile, and Kamiya instantly understood that this was a conspiracy waiting for him. I guess Uchiha Fugaku came here for this guy Kamiya, otherwise how could he appear here as a genius? I think it's the same. After all, he bullied Makoto, who is also from the Uchiha family. Fuyu won't just sit idly by. It doesn't matter, anyway, the disaster won't befall us, just watch this guy make a fool of himself. The teacher shook his head helplessly. Since Uchiha Fugaku carried the orders of the 3rd Hokage-sama on his body, it was hard for him to stop him. Besides, this teacher was relatively simple, and he didn't think that this guy was here to find trouble. For these children who have not yet graduated from the Ninja Academy, the daily outdoor activity class is to carry out some simple shuriken training. Under the organization of the teacher, everyone walked into the training ground one after another. The various wooden stakes lined up in the training ground attracted Shenya's eyes. He had only seen them in anime before, but now they really appeared in front of him. Uchiha Fugaku rolled his nose with a sneer, looking at Shenya as if he was looking at a countryman who had never seen the world. Some guys are even whispering already. It's the first time this guy Shenyi has come to such a place, look at his stupid look. Yeah, if it wasn't for Tsunade-sama, he wouldn't have had the chance to come here in his life. It's just a little boy, the world still needs to speak with strength. The teacher sighed deeply. Although these words were not loud, they all fell into his ears. As a teacher who teaches and educates people, he does not allow discrimination in his heart, so he quickly uttered a voice to end everyone's discussion. Today's training is the same as usual. 2 people will practice shuriken in groups. Everyone found their members with ease, and Shenyi stood on the spot after thinking about it and decided to go to Yusheng. Among so many people, only Yuexing was a little familiar with him. If he went to look for Maken, it would inevitably be another quarrel. But another girl appeared beside Yusheng. Shenyi stopped her steps and was stunned. At this time, a ninja came to his side, and there was some discord in his expression. Let's form a group of 2. It seems that I don't want to train with you. It just so happens that I have some unique insights into shuriken. Shenyi spread his hands and said that it doesn't matter. For him, the shuriken is not worth mentioning at all. The reason for not winning any battle comes from the shuriken. The training time was very fast, but Shenyi did not touch the shuriken during this period, which aroused the dissatisfaction of the fellow ninjas who were on the same team. Aren't you a little too arrogant? Shuriken is the foundation of a ninja, and you don't even look at it. I won't. Shenyi didn't hide the slightest bit, and directly explained the reason why he didn't want to touch the shuriken. He didn't think there would be any embarrassment, but still caused countless laughs around him. It's wishful thinking for a guy who can't even use a shuriken to want to graduate from the Ninja Academy. Yeah, this is the first time I've heard that someone can't use a shuriken, haha. I said you guys, you really don't think that shuriken is really the key to a ninja. Shenyi folded his arms around his chest and looked around at these guys around him, completely unable to figure out what they were thinking. However, such words caused a more intense ridicule, and everyone looked at him as if they were looking at a monster. From their point of view, Shenyi is now a helpless child with no fighting ability at all. That's why they laughed unscrupulously, and even some guys were eager to step forward to provoke, but they couldn't act because the teacher was around. How can you laugh at a kid with dreams? Uchiha Fugaku came to Kamiya in a false voice, and patted him on the shoulder twice as if to appease a junior. Shenyi curled his lips, already seeing that his eyes were full of conspiracy. Sure enough, as soon as Uchiha Fugaku's voice fell, the guy who had been teaming up with Shenyi suddenly stood up. Since he is a kid with dreams, let me show you how powerful he is without shuriken. Rao the scheming teacher also saw what was going on at this time. This ninja has always been Uchiha Fugaku's subordinate. I thought it was because of Shenyi's practice that he took the initiative to ask Ying to be with him, but he didn't expect that it was because this guy was lurking by his side and wanted to make a move. This is Shenya's disaster. Although he is not very powerful in the village, he is already a ninja. Yeah, no matter if any of us face him, we will lose. These people who were still laughing at Shenya just now sweated for him. After all, Shenya's victory or defeat is related to the reputation of the Ninja Academy. If they win by chance, the fighting spirit of these children who have not yet graduated from the academy will be instantly ignited. Shenyi shook his head helplessly. The trouble has already been found on his own head. If he doesn't teach him a harsh lesson, everyone won't be convinced. It was a good outdoor practice course, but now it has become a ring competition, which is a bit interesting. Shenyi stretched his body a few times, walked towards the middle of the training ground, and gently hooked his fingers towards Sha Ren. The latter's face was full of anger. No matter what, he never thought that he would be provoked by this guy. Anyway, he is also a ninja. Compared with these little guys who are still in the academy, the forehead guard on the forehead is the most obvious difference. Little guy, I have to be serious. This ninja's hands began to seal, and the chakra condensed in his body rushed towards his palm. Wind done, gale palm. Before many people could see clearly, 2 hurricanes appeared in the air and flew in the direction of Shen Yi. As expected of a ninja, he can perform such a powerful ninjutsu casually. It seems that Shen Yi can't even survive this blow. Even so, I always feel that Shen Yi will make unexpected moves. Feeling the coercion coming from the air, Shen Yi frowned slightly. Although I have mastered Tsunade's strange power and Jiraiya's sage mode, I can't perform decent ninjutsu. For the time being, I can only use these 2 abilities to scare the weak. But Shen Yi still has the confidence to easily defeat this ninja in front of him. Strange power. The right foot moved back slightly twice, keeping a distance of a few centimeters from the left foot, so as to stabilize the body more conveniently. The body is slightly half-bowed, and the strength of the whole body is concentrated on the right fist, which is fiercely bombarded towards the air in front of it. Boom! The 2 hurricanes were disintegrated and collapsed, and everyone's eyes were fixed on the air that hadn't dissipated. Unexpectedly, it would end like this. Shen Yi diffuses a ninja's attack so easily, and it seems that he still has some strength left. This is impossible. You are just a child, how can you have such a strong chakra reserve? Who told you that this is a chakra reserve? You have already become a ninjutsu, but you still can't see the difference between physical jutsu and ninjutsu. Heaven, born with strange power. The temptation is over, today's class is over, you 2 stop here. Good teacher, if there is nothing else, I will go home. Sister Tsunade is already thinking of me at this time. Everyone who was shocked by Shen Yi's strength once again became furious because of his words. Tsunade is the dream of all the boys in the village, but he said it frivolously in his mouth. The teacher coughed lightly. He also has Tsunade's place in his heart, but due to the teacher's status, it's hard to express anything at this time. Master Fuyu, do you have anything else to say? The teacher quickly dumped this matter on Uchiha Fugaku. Fuyu took a deep breath. Shen Yi's actions today had completely angered him, but at this moment, he could only swallow his anger in his stomach. The task entrusted to me by the 3 generations of adults has been completed, but I am very much looking forward to the next meeting with Shen Yi. Although Uchiha Fugaku was very kind on the surface, his words revealed hostility towards Kamiya, and even had the urge to kill him. For Shen Yi, these threats were in vain at all. I don't have anything to do, I'm leaving first, I don't want to hear the incompetent roar of the weak chicken. Uchiha Fugaku forcibly calmed down his mood. If there was a conflict with Shen Yi at this time, he would be the one who suffered in the end. According to the source, Tsunade will be the first to not let go of himself. Although he is a genius ninja in the village, he is still inferior to Tsunade, one of the 3 ninjas. And everyone in Konoha village knows a truth, Tsunade must not be messed with. Not paying attention to the strange eyes of other people, Shen Yi walked away from the training ground directly, wandering around the village aimlessly. According to his understanding, Tsunade was definitely not at home at this time. Unknowingly, Shen Yi came to a majestic building, and when he looked up, it turned out to be the mansion of the Hyuga family, which looked very grand. Sure enough, it is one of the best big families in the village, and the Hokage office is nothing more than that. In the whole family, Shen Yi only knows one girl for the time being, and that is Uexing. This level is far from enough. As the main family, you only have this kind of strength. A violent scolding sound appeared in Shen Yi's ears, and Shen Yi scratched his head helplessly. The troubles of the big family were beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. I wanted to ignore it, but I continued to hear the familiar voice. I know that this level is still a lot worse, so I still have to work hard to practice. It is my fault to shame the family. It's Yu Xing. When did she leave the practice field and return to her home? Chapter 11. With doubts, Kamiya walked towards the source of the sound, and found that there was an extremely spacious open space behind the Hyuga family house. Hyuga Tsukiho is practicing with another member of the Hyuga family, and it seems that Uexing seems to be a little bit invincible. Shen Yi decided to lean on the big tree and observe for a period of time, so as to finally determine the strength of Yu Xing. However, Shen Yi gradually discovered something unusual. Uexing's opponent didn't hold back the slightest bit of hand in the battle, and every blow could cause fatal damage. Hey, why don't you guys know how to be sympathetic and sympathetic? The battle between the two was terminated by Shen Yi's sudden voice, and the two looked in Shen Yi's direction one after another. After seeing clearly that it was Shen Yi, a smile appeared on Yu Xing's face, and he wanted to get up and run, but hesitated for a moment and did not act. I heard you two training here early in the morning, so I want to take a sneak peek here. Because I was abducted that day and brought shame to my family, so now I have to practice hard to make myself stronger. Mappy, even if you increase your strength, you won't harm your body so much. Where did you come from? You dare to take care of our Hyuga family's affairs. Shen Yi gave that guy a blank look, dragged Yu Xing and walked towards the shade on one side, wanting her to rest and continue her practice. This kind of behavior completely angered that guy. He jumped in front of the two people, and stopped them with his arms open. Shen Yi sighed deeply, and he already knew what was going on through the eyes and simple communication between the two of them. This slightly stronger guy is a member of the branch of the Hyuga family, destined to be inferior at birth, and will always guard the existence of the main family. Although Hyuga Uxing is not strong, he is naturally outstanding because he was born in the same family. That's why after that incident happened, the members of the branch family reacted so violently, even more serious than their own failure. In the heart of the branch family, even if there are one people who are not convinced, they still have to act according to the etiquette of the family. The glory of the family is more important than the family. A lot of things were blessed together, and he from a separated family couldn't help aggravating when training Yu Xing. At this time Yu Xing was already covered in bruises. I don't want to overdo things about your family, but continuing to bully Yu Xing is something I will not allow. Shen Yi raised his hand and shook his hand aside, and pulled Yu Xing to sit on a small chair in the shade. How do you feel? Does your injury matter? Yu Xing shook her head. She could still see some faint training impulse in her eyes. It seemed that the incident of being abducted completely left a shadow in her heart. Hey, Xiaobian, you are from the separated family, right? What did you say? Who are you calling Xiaobian? Aside from you and Uxing, are there other people with supercilious eyes? Do you think I'm calling Uxing? The guy who separated from the family twitched the corners of his mouth twice, never expecting Shen Yi to call himself that. Okay, you have completely angered me now. It seems that I have to teach you a good lesson. Xiaobian clenched his fists tightly, but because he was a member of the Hyuga family, he kept suppressing his inner anger. It is not allowed to fight casually in the village, but I can give you a chance. Xiaobian became interested in an instant, and it would be good to find an opportunity to beat this guy violently, just to vent the anger that has been accumulated in his heart. Tell me the story. I'll make a bet with you. If I win, let Uxing rest here for a while. If I lose, it's up to you to deal with it. It is good. Xiaobian didn't hesitate, and immediately agreed. In his heart, there was no possibility that he would lose. Yu Xing stared at Shen Yi with wide eyes. She knew the strength of these two people. Judging from Shen Yi's performance that day, there was absolutely no chance of winning against Xiaobian. Several times he was eager to stand up and stop Shen Yi, but was repelled by Shen Yi's eyes. For some reason, after touching Shen Yi's eyes, an inexplicable sense of security swept over her whole body. Shen Yi made a gesture of invitation, full of gentlemanly demeanor. Xiaobian was not polite, and walked to the middle of the open space in a few steps, with both hands in the starting position, ready to attack at any time. White eyes, open. Hurry up. I don't want to waste time on garbage like you. Today I will let you know why the separation is called separation. Shen Yi separated his feet slightly to stabilize his body, and looked at Xiaobian with an expression on his face. At this time, the attack moves he has mastered are only monster power, but he has no advantage at all against the members of the Bian family, and will be easily dodged. Therefore, the only way to win right now is to rely on the sage mode of accumulating chakra. Xiaobian, who was already extremely angry, couldn't control his hands anymore, and ran towards Shen Yi. A strong force had been gathered on his fist. The most famous of the Hyuga family is the ability of Bian, but all the abilities of Bian are in the service of physical skills, so the power of Xiaobian cannot be ignored. Shen Yi grinned at the corner of his mouth and punched fiercely in front of him. There was a strange force hidden deep in the fist. Xiaobian could tell at a glance that Shen Yi's fist was different, but as a member of the Hyuga family, he didn't allow himself to dodge it opportunistically. The fists collided together, causing ripples in the air. Yu Xing sat on one side, not daring to take his eyes off for a moment, watching closely the position where the fists clashed. Who the hell are you? Why do you have such a huge power? In the whole village, I have only seen one person who can use it. Are you talking about Sister Tsunade? I'm staying at her home now. Shen Yi shook his fist, although the fight just now didn't show much on the surface, but both of them already knew the result. It was I who lost, and the training for a few days is over. Xiao Bai turned around and walked towards the courtyard with a gloomy look in his eyes. This battle seemed to have left him a deep blow. Shen Yi jumped to Yu Xing's side, mobilized chakra in the palm of his hand, and gently rubbed the place on her hand. Yu Xing's eyes were a little dazed. Even if Shen Yi saved her before that, deep down in her heart she still thought that he was the pervert who peeked at the girl's bath. Never thought that he would have such a gentle and considerate side, subverting Yu Xing's cognition. I always thought you were an ignorant little hooligan, but I didn't expect to be so gentle with girls. The voyeurism that day was really unavoidable, and there is no way to undo it. I've never seen you in the village before. Why did you suddenly appear on the roof of that women's bathhouse? Shen Yi was at a loss for words for a moment, not knowing how to explain why he appeared on the roof. Relying on his fair face can coax Tsunade, but it seems to have no effect on Hyuga Tsukiho of the Bayan family. You can't tell the whole story about the fact that you came here through time travel, even if you don't care that you will become a village's experimental guinea pig. Yu Xing will not believe this absurd reason. Ham, you also know that there are constant wars outside the village. I just narrowly escaped death in a battlefield before that. Yu Xing's eyes tightened slightly, and pity for Shen Yi rose in his heart. At the same age as him, he was still practicing in the greenhouse, while Shen Yi had already experienced life and death. In order to survive, I accidentally ran to Konoha village, to avoid the enemy's pursuit, so I climbed onto the roof, right? Shen Yi nodded repeatedly. He was still thinking about how to explain what happened later, but he didn't expect the moon and stars to form a picture in his mind. Because she was rescued by Shen Yi because of the previous incident, in Yu Xing's heart, she has already overcome the peeping. Now, during this short exchange, Yu Xing's feeling towards Shen Yi has changed slightly again, perhaps she didn't even realize it. Just when the eyes of the two were intertwined, Tsunade hurriedly ran to Kamiya's side. Come with me to Hokage's office, there are very important things you need to confirm. Shenya nodded, bid farewell to Yu Xing, turned around and ran towards the office behind Tsunade. In terms of physical fitness, Shenye is naturally not as good as Tsunade, and Tsunade was thrown several blocks away by Tsunade in just a few minutes. Turning his head and looking, Tsunade could no longer see the figure of Shenya, so he had no choice but to stay where he was and wait. Sister Tsunade, your speed is too fast, or you can hug me over. You brat, that's all you have to do. Tsunade held Kamiya in his arms with one hand, and jumped continuously between the roofs. Feeling the breeze blowing in front of him and the softness between his fingers, Shenyi became a little obsessed, and even wanted to lie on Tsunade's body all the time. Arriving at the door of the office, Tsunade gave Kamiya a blank look. It's already here, why don't you come down? Come down here. Shenyi scratched his head and fell to the ground again, opened the door and followed Tsunade into the office. There were two people in the room, Hiruza Sarutobi of the 3rd Hokage with a bamboo hat on his head, and Jiraiya who had just returned from a mission sitting on the other side. Shenyi frowned slightly and realized that things were not as simple as imagined. About the voyeuristic incident in the women's bathhouse some time ago, I have asked Jiraiya carefully, and he did not leave the room that day. Tsunade looked at Jiraiya in shock. It turned out that he had wrongly blamed him all along, so the beating was for nothing. Shenyi, let me ask you now, were you peeping on the roof that day? Absolutely not. In order to avoid the war, I accidentally walked into Konoha village. When I passed there, I was bumped into by Sister Tsunade. Tsunade nodded, she could still testify to this. Although she didn't see clearly who the guy on the roof was, she was sure that it wasn't Shenyi. Such a cute child would never do such a thing. However, it was obvious that the 3rd Hokage didn't believe in Kamiya, and asked him several questions one after another. If that's the case, tell me about the process of the war in detail, you and those who came to Muya village. Shenyi nodded, and began to think about how to deal with it quickly in his mind. After all, The war in the ninja world cannot be hidden, and there is no way to make it up. I was with my family that day, and suddenly countless ninjutsu fell from the sky and landed in the village. My father and mother hugged me and ran away in a panic. Hiruzuru Sarutobi's eyes kept falling on Shenya's face, trying to get some clues from his expression. However, Shenyi's disguise was flawless, and there seemed to be no flaws at all, and she was completely explaining a fact. There are no ninjas in this small village, so we can only choose to escape and give up our original home. Tsunade's expression was a bit sad. He thought that Shenyi was just a homeless child, but he didn't expect to experience so many things on the same day. Where is the original living existence? It's not under the management of the Kingdom of Fire, but it's very close to Muya village. Otherwise, I wouldn't have escaped here. What happened to your father and mother in the end? Hearing Sandai Hokage's inquiry, tears welled up from the corners of Shenya's eyes, as if he remembered something very bad. The two of them attracted the attention of those guys because I was able to protect me. I don't know if they are still alive. Shenyi already deeply admired his acting skills from the bottom of his heart, and believed that the three people in the room would believe what he said. If you can guarantee that it's not you that day, you can leave first. Shenyi nodded, turned and walked outside, looked at Sandai Hokage out of the corner of his eye, and found that the expression on his face was very serious. Gently closing the office door, Shenyi did not leave in a hurry, but stepped to the side and secretly listened to the conversation in the room. Perception told him that things were not as simple as he imagined, and there were some things waiting for him that he didn't know yet. Master 3 Generations, why did you suddenly ask Shenyi these questions? He is definitely not that guy. Now it can be confirmed that he has nothing to do with the enemy army that suddenly appeared in the village. From today on, you must cheer up and don't give the enemy army a chance. Don't worry, Mr. 3 Generations, leave this matter to the two of us. Tsunade gave Jiraiya a blank look, and he didn't feel embarrassed at all for blaming him wrongly the day before. It's fine for you to be alone, and I still have to accompany Shenyi well. After saying that, Tsunade turned around and was about to leave the office. Wait a minute for Tsunade, that guy is not as simple as we imagined. He has already learned about the village, otherwise he wouldn't pretend to be himself. Tsunade, who had already put his hand on the door, froze in place. In that case, that guy must have had contact with Shenyi, otherwise Shenyi wouldn't blurt out that he was also peeping. Shenyi listened to all the conversations outside, and left the office with a faint smile on his lips. Without staying outside for too long, Shenyi went straight home and locked herself in the room. After all, the skills he has now are very limited, only Tsunade's strange power can fight, and Jiraiya's immortal mode is currently only an auxiliary ability. However, continuing to practice the immortal mode to accumulate chakra will be of great help in extracting skills in the future. Time passed bit by bit. Tsunade walked home but found Kamiya hiding in his room, thinking he was still immersed in sadness. Shenyi, can my sister go into your room? Hearing Tsunade's voice, Shenyi quickly put away the posture of practicing, stood on the head of the bed with rolling feet, and opened the door gently. Eyes met. Tsunade was slightly dazed looking at Shenyi's appearance. For some reason, Tsunade found that Kamiya's grid seemed to have grown a bit taller, and such an earth-shaking change took place in just one afternoon. What's wrong, Tsunade-san? You seem to have grown taller. I don't know if it's my illusion. Is it because of the immortal mode of practice? Shenyi also murmured in his heart, if this is really the case, the absorption of chakra will be stopped for the time being. Tsunade dragged Shenya to the front of the mirror. Looking at himself in the mirror, Shenya nodded in disbelief. Before that, when Shenya stood up straight, he could only reach Tsunade's knee in front of him, but now it was obviously close to his thigh. I don't know what you've been through. If someone asks you, they must say that I helped you. Shenyi nodded repeatedly. He knew that Tsunade was protecting him, so he would inevitably feel a little moved in his heart. A day passed by in the blink of an eye as the two of them played and fought. Early the next morning, Shenyi opened his eyes and raised his hand to scratch the air lightly, watching his hand swinging back and forth in the air. System, it's time to add some new skills for me today. Looking at the sun hanging high outside the window, Shenyi remembered that there was no need to go to the Ninja Academy today, the one-day holiday was coming. And Tsunade has left home and is looking for the guy pretending to be Jiraiya in the village. Whether it's for the village or for the girls being spied on, Tsunade is ready to punish this guy severely. Consciously bored, Shenyi got up, put on his clothes and walked outside. There was not a single familiar face on the busy street, which was a little strange to him. Shenyi, what a coincidence to meet you here. A yellow figure quickly ran towards Shenyi. Shenya took a closer look, it was Minakame Minato. How could this guy be so enthusiastic when he saw me? There was no communication before that. Shenyi couldn't help scratching his head, but when he thought of his son Uzumaki Naruto's familiar character, he felt relieved. Would you like to make an appointment to eat steaming Ichiraku ramen together? Right on my mind. With a smile on his face, Kamiya walked towards Ichiraku ramen side by side with Namikaze Minato. Along the way, Namikaze Minato enthusiastically introduced various things about Konoha village to Shenya, and truly regarded Shenya as a good brother. Shenya did not interrupt Namikaze Minato, but listened quietly, catering to each other from time to time. But there is a question lingering in Kamiya's mind: how did Namikaze Minato, who looks so natural, become the fourth Hokage? Namikaze Minato couldn't help but put his hand on Kamiya's shoulder with the eloquent and emotional description. Shenyi silently activated the system stealing skills in his heart. Compared with Sanin, Namikaze Minato is a fearsome existence in the entire ninja world, and only Reikage can handle it in terms of speed. Ding! Congratulations to the host. The host has captured the skill of Namikaze Minato, Flying Thunder God's art. The remaining cooling time of the thief, 3 hours. The art of Flying Thunder God. Shenyi's excitement is beyond words. This is Namikaze Minato's famous stunt. But joy comes along with sadness. The shuriken is an ability that Shenyi scoffs at, but now he has to practice hard to master it. Shenyi, why are you so happy all of a sudden? I've heard that the Ichiraku ramen in Konoha village is very delicious. Now I can finally taste it. Of course I am very happy. Boss Yeel, 2 bowls of ramen that go with it. It's Minato, I haven't seen you for a while, are you out on a mission? I also want to go out to perform missions, but we have not yet graduated from the Ninja Academy, and we are not allowed to intervene in many missions. Shenyi sat beside Minato and quietly watched Yeel's process of making ramen, using his own memory to write down the process of placing the ingredients. If one day you can break the curse of time travel and return to the original world, you can consider opening a ramen shop, which will definitely be very popular. Even while waiting for the ramen, Minato Namikaze still didn't stop talking. Although we didn't have any communication before, I have been observing you for a few days, and I can easily defeat Genin, whose strength far exceeds ours. Namikaze Minato admired this peer in front of him from the bottom of his heart, and couldn't help giving a thumbs up. Shenyi smiled lightly. It was just a fluke, that guy underestimated the enemy. Accompanied by ramen, the two chatted for a long time, and suddenly Shenyi noticed a hurricane behind him. Careful, Shenya lightly pushed Namikaze Minato with lightning speed, and a shuriken fell on the table along the gap between the two of them. Namikaze Minato became tense in an instant. Under the bright universe, someone would do something here. It must be an enemy who doesn't care about the village system. The two turned around almost at the same time, but what they saw was Uzumaki Kushina with red hair, holding another shuriken in her hand. This time it was Shenyi's turn to be puzzled, not understanding why this guy suddenly attacked. You big pervert, you actually want to kidnap other classmates to join you. What? So many people testified against me that day. It wasn't me at all, why did you? Before Kamiya finished speaking, Kushina's shuriken flew over again. Shenyi snorted coldly, leaned forward slightly and rushed out instantly, holding the shuriken in his hand in midair. Taking advantage of the forward trend, he fell to Kushina's side. So fast. Namikaze Minato thought that he was already one of the best in speed among his peers, but he didn't expect this guy to be even more terrifying. I've already said that it wasn't me that day. Don't think that you are a girl and I can let you talk nonsense all the time. Shenyi's shuriken had landed on Kushina's neck at this time, and it only needed a little force to leave a mark on her fair neck. Unless you really prove it to me, otherwise I will always doubt you. Shenyi rolled his eyes at Ju Shinai, wondering why this guy was so stubborn. Seeing this, Namikaze Minato hurriedly ran between the two of them to act as a peacemaker, putting one hand on Kamiya's wrist, and gently pushing away Kushina's shoulder with the other. Shenyi didn't really think about what to do to Kushina, so he took 2 steps back. How can you explain why you are so good? A roof like that is easy for you. It's not over yet. Shenyi rolled up his sleeves and took 2 steps forward, and Minato Namikaze quickly stood between the two of them. You two, stop arguing. I believe that brother Shenye is not such a person. You must have misunderstood the person, Jushina. It's impossible to be mistaken, his back is exactly the same as that guy. Didn't you hear that a guy pretending to be Jiraiya appeared in the village? It must be him that you saw that day. Kushina stared at Shenyi dubiously, trying to read a little guilt in his eyes. But she still didn't see anything in her eyes, there was nothing but clarity. Feeling the solemn atmosphere in the air, Namikaze Minato hurriedly pulled the two of them to sit in front of Yilela, for fear that the two would fight again. The only thing that can kill grievances is delicious food. Shenyi didn't intend to target Jushinai, but just wanted her to talk less nonsense. And the moment Kushina ate the ramen, the expression on her face relaxed, and her joy could be seen between her brows and eyes. Namikaze Minato on one side tilted his head and rested his chin, quietly watching Kushina put the ramen into his mouth one mouthful at a time. This guy really fell in love with Kushina at this time, so I won't fight with him anymore. A violent temper like Kushina's is not my style. Shenyi felt a little disdain for Namikaze Minato, then patted him on the shoulder and got up to leave. I still have some other things to do, you stay with Kushina. Minato still wanted to continue to stay, but Shenyi did jump and left directly. After a while, Shenyi appeared in an open space and shook his fist. System, what skills did you just steal from Jushinai? Host, the system stealing skill is still cooling down, so today's harvest is only Feng Shui's Flying Thunder God technique. What, isn't this cheating? Ding, the skill cooldown time is 10 minutes, the host can steal the skill after 10 minutes. Shenyi sighed deeply, the reason why he rushed to Kushina's side at that time was to steal her ability conveniently. But I didn't expect to steal a loneliness. There is also no way, whoever made all this is the credit of the ghost system. 10 minutes is just a blink of an eye for Shenyi, so he is not in a hurry. After all, the only thing that attracted Yizan to Kushina was his powerful self-healing ability and huge chakra reserves. And these two abilities can be obtained slowly in Tsunade and Jiraiya, it is better to find some active attack skills. Just doing what he said, Shenyi hurriedly ran towards the outside of the village, and there were countless ninjas practicing in Muya village in the forest of Lin Jin village. Shenyi, what do you want to do when you leave the village at this time? Take a stroll in the nearby forest and learn the practice of the seniors. The ninja guarding the gate of Muya village frowned dubiously. With so many things happening in the village recently, it was hard for him to believe that Shenyi was an innocent child, and he didn't want to let him in and out casually. What are you two hesitating about here? Tsunade's voice appeared not far away, and then a pretty figure strolled towards the courtyard. Master Tsunade, Kamiya wants to hang out in the forest near the village. I think it's too dangerous outside, so I'm not going to let him go. Let him go, if something happens, I will be responsible. The guard wanted to say something, but Shenyi turned around deftly and ran out of the village. Across the gate of Konoha village, Kamiya smiled and waved to Tsunade, before disappearing into the forest. Tsunade shook his head helplessly, turned around and continued to patrol the village, looking for the guy pretending to be Jiraiya. Sure enough, there is a big difference between here and the village. I felt the breath of fighting before I reached the depths of the forest. Children don't appear here casually, it's very dangerous. A guy with blood eyes appeared in Shenya's sight, and the forehead guard worn on his forehead proved his identity, the ninja of Konoha village. Are you a member of the Uchiha family? That's right, today is the annual hunting of family members, and now this forest is full of members of the Uchiha family. Hunting, how come I've never heard of it? You are a foreigner, so it is not good to say anything to you. I advise you to leave obediently. Shenyi touched his chin with a plan in his mind, and patted the Uchiha family member on the shoulder when he turned to leave. Although the latter was very puzzled, he didn't think too much about it. Following the stealing skill silently in his heart, the system quietly activated his ability to imbue one of his abilities into Shen Yi's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the skills of the Uchiha family through skill stealing, Sharingan. Skill cooling time, 3 hours. God helped me to steal Sharingan during this time. A faint smile appeared on the corner of Shen Yi's mouth, and he chose another way back to the village. At this moment, there is no member of the Uchiha family in Konoha village, which happens to be convenient for Shen Yi's next actions. After several jumps in a row, Shen Yi came to the Uchiha family's house and found a suitable clothes for himself. Back in the woods again, Shen Yi had already changed into the clothes of the Uchiha family, and no one could see a trace of flaws at first glance. In the fairy mode, the chakra is enough to support the opening of Sharingan, and the next thing is interesting. Shuttle through the woods, but Shen Yi never saw a member of the Uchiha family. Is that guy cheating on me? I have come here and still haven't seen them. Suddenly, the sound of fighting came from Shen Yi's ears, and looking in the direction of the sound, it was 2 members of the Uchiha family who were fighting. One of them was Kamiya's old acquaintance, Uchiha Fugaku. He made a mistake on the spot. If he rushed over at this time, he would be recognized by Fuyu in an instant. Even wearing Uchiha's clothes is useless, it can only deceive those who have never seen Yi's on. However, the desire to fight was stirring in Shen Yi's heart, and it was the first time he had really seen a fight since he traveled to this world. Even if it is discovered, Uchiha Fugaku is just a ninja now, and I can handle it. The corner of Shen Yi's mouth raised slightly, his eyes were full of confidence and he jumped towards that side, landing on the huge tree trunk in 2 or 3. Here you can just see the 2 people who made the move. Another guy from the Uchiha family also wore a forehead protector on his forehead, but was faintly suppressed by Uchiha Fugaku. From this, Shen Yi judged that that guy was also a ninja, and he was even inferior to Uchiha Fugaku in terms of strength. Suddenly, a conspiratorial smile appeared on the corner of Fuyu's mouth, and the movements of his feet accelerated a lot. His opponent didn't see clearly when a shuriken appeared in Fuyu's hand, and rushed towards his forehead. Shen Yi snorted coldly, this is a good time to fall down, and block Uchiha Fugaku's attack. Strange power. A heavy force came from under his feet, and Shen Yi's entire body was ejected to the ground, and his fist hit Fuyu's arm with precision. The shuriken fell to the ground in response, and Fuyu quickly retracted his strength and slid his arm down. The huge power was unloaded in an instant, and he jumped back a few steps to distance himself from Shen Yi. Thank you for helping me block this attack, otherwise there would be a scratch on my forehead. Shen Yi, why did you appear here wearing our family's clothes? You thief. You, I want you to care about what clothes I wear. The guy standing behind Shen Yi frowned. Through the opponents of Shen Yi and Fuyu, he had already learned that the boy standing in front of him was not a member of the Uchiha family. Although this is a hunting operation of our family to distinguish the strength gap between us, but this boy just saved me, please don't speak rudely. Uchiha Fugaku took a deep breath, his heart filled with endless anger. I was just questioning Shen Yi just now, and it was obviously Shen Yi who made the rude remarks. In this case, you can enjoy the feast of the Uchiha family. From now on, I will pretend that I don't know you. After Fuyu finished speaking, he turned around and walked towards the other direction of the forest, leaving Shen Yi standing there. Shen Yi scratched his head and didn't understand what Fuyu meant. Did he want to use other members of the family to teach him a lesson? But since he chose to join this competition, Shen Yi has no fear, even the strongest Uchiha family will not be afraid when standing in front of him. Your name is Shen Yi, right? That's right, the host is now at Mrs. Tsunade's house. If you need any help in the future, you can come to me at any time. Shen Yi could see that this guy was not favored in the Uchiha family, and might even be excluded. Without continuing to entangle with this guy, Shen Yi ran in the direction of Uchiha Fugaku, wanting to take advantage of this time to teach him a good lesson. But the sky gradually darkened, and since then, Shen Yi has never seen a member of the Uchiha family. A feast for the Uchiha family. You can't even see a single person, no wonder the last of them will be lonely overnight. Shaking his head helplessly, Shen Yi changed into his own clothes and walked towards the village, preparing to end today's stealing trip. Walking back to the entrance of the village, Shenyi saw groups of members of the Uchiha family wandering back and forth, and among them was a figure he was very familiar with. Uchiha Fugaku stood not far from Makoto. His eyes fell on Makoto from time to time. In the corner of the team was the guy who was rescued by Shenyi, who seemed to have no sense of existence. Fu Yu and Mi Chin discovered Shenyi almost at the same time, but the two of them were very tacit and did not show any signs. The annual Uchiha hunt is coming to an end. Regardless of whether everyone has gained or not, from today onwards, family members will not be allowed to fight among themselves. The respected head of the Uchiha family stood in the middle of the team and read out. Shenyi didn't have any interest in this, and directly bypassed the team and walked into the village. Walking into the village, I happened to meet Jilai, who was on patrol. Shenyi, it's a rare ninja academy break, why did you run outside the village? I heard that today is the hunting operation of the Uchiha family, so I ran over to see the world. After all, the Uchiha family is the oldest family since the establishment of Konoha village. Jilai didn't say anything, but the smile leaking from the corner of his mouth was very strange, as if he wanted to express something but hesitated to speak. Shenyi was slightly puzzled, but did not continue to inquire further. Brother Jiraiya, can I ask you something? Shenyi slowly leaned against Jiraiya, looking mysterious. Jiraiya's interest was aroused by Shenya's state, and he turned his ear to listen to Shenya's next narration seriously. I want to know if you have peeked at Sister Tsunade's body. Don't worry, I won't tell her about it. Jilai also twitched the corners of his mouth twice, not knowing what was going on in this little guy's head. Seeing his reaction, Shenyi instantly confirmed that Jilai had never experienced such benefits. I already knew the result by looking at your expression. By the way, why did you grow so tall all of a sudden? Sister Tsunade used me as a guinea pig in the laboratory, and released the ninjutsu she had just practiced on me. With an aggrieved look on his face, Shenya threw all the problems on Tsunade. The expression on Jiraiya's face changed, and an immature thought suddenly appeared in his heart. Brother Jiraiya, stop thinking about it. Sister Tsunade has listed this ninjutsu as her own forbidden technique, and swore in front of me that she will never use it again in this life. A disappointed expression flashed across Jiraiya's face, then he waved his hand at Shenya and turned to leave the village. Looking at Jiraiya's back, Shenyi shook his head helplessly. He knew that Jiraiya was also thinking about something just now. It's just that he doesn't know that all this is because of the nourishment of the fairy model, and Jiraiya has just passed that age. Standing on the same spot and wandering alone for a while, Shenyi returned home in a few steps. Tsunade was not at home at this time, and was patrolling the village while it was still dark. It seems that the third-generation old man cares about that guy very much, otherwise he wouldn't have sent Saninji to patrol all the time. If I can find him, I can completely dispel those guys' prejudice against me. Shenyi touched his chin, carefully thinking about how to find that guy and bring him to justice. While thinking, Shenyi unconsciously leaned on the sofa and fell asleep in a daze. Shenyi, why did you fall asleep here, and you are not afraid of catching a cold? While complaining, Tsunade gently put the quilt on Kamiya's body. Even though Tsunade's movements were already very light, Shenyi still opened his eyes. Sister Tsunade, when did you come back? Just when I walked into the room, I saw you sleeping here, so go back to the room obediently. Shenyi nodded, rubbed his sleepy eyes and went back to his room. In a blink of an eye, the next morning came, and in order to arrest that guy, Tsunade left the house early in the morning. It's time to report to the Ninja Academy today. It's a pity that the wonderful vacation is only one short day. Shenyi, let's go to school together. Hinata Uexing's voice appeared at the door, and Shenyi was stunned for a moment, never expecting that she would take the initiative to make such a request. The girl was already so proactive, how could Shenyi procrastinate, and hurriedly walked towards the Ninja Academy side by side with Uexing. At this time, many students had gathered in the classroom, and Shenyi saw the obvious two guys at a glance. The red-haired Kushina and the yellow-haired Namikaze Minato were particularly conspicuous at the moment. Shenyi, come and sit here. Shenyi looked at Yu Xing, wanting to ask her what she was thinking. After all, Yu Xing is more shy than other people, so she may be a little embarrassed to sit with everyone. Let's go, Kushina and I are very good friends. Shenyi nodded, and hurriedly led Yu Xing over to the seat next to the water gate while no one was occupying it. Yuexing, long time no see. Long time no see, Kushina, it looks like your hair is even redder. Ju Shinai grinned. How could anyone come up to praise each other like this, but the two are old acquaintances and don't care about these details. By the way, Yuexing, have you heard that a guy appeared in the village recently, pretending to be Mr. Zilaya? Yu Xing obviously hadn't received such news yet, but thinking of Jiraiya and impersonation, she naturally set her sights on Shen Yi. Don't you forget that I told you about this on the way here, and I was called to the office by Sister Tsunade that day for this matter. Rao Yu Xing, who was usually inflexible, understood what was going on at this moment, so he chatted with Ju Shinai haha. Shen Yi quietly wiped the sweat from his forehead. That day, Yu Xing was aware of his matter in the women's bathhouse, and he almost slipped his mouth when he said it. Seeing the two girls chatting and laughing, Shen Yi ignored him and leaned against Namikaze Minato. Before the teacher shows up, let me take you to a special place. But we still have to go to school today to learn new ninjutsu knowledge. Forget it, I'll teach you something more powerful, definitely better than today's teacher. Namikaze Minato rolled his eyes, and what Kamiya said was very attractive to him, but he never left the classroom, and he didn't know how to make a choice for a while. Shen Yi saw the difficulty of this guy at a glance, and he never tried the joy of skipping class. There is only one chance. I don't know if you are interested in the name Flying Thunder God. Let's go now, the teacher will show up later. Shen Yi nodded, took Namikaze Minato and fled the classroom directly, and arrived at the training ground of the village without any pause. Since all the students are in the Ninja Academy today, the training is empty. Minato could no longer contain his excitement. When will we start? The art of Flying Thunder God sounds amazing. The foundation of this ninjutsu is the shuriken. At this time, you already have a deep foundation, so just teach you how chakra works. Minato looked at Shenye intently, for fear of missing something. The art of Flying Thunder God. Shenyi threw a shuriken towards the tree trunk in the distance, and with a clang, it was directly pierced deeply into the tree trunk. At the same time, Shenyi took out another shuriken from his knife pocket, and put his hands together in front of him. With a flick, Shenyi's figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already on the tree trunk. Namikaze Minato's eyes widened. Neither in his own experience nor in the village's classics had he seen such an ability. Seeing Minato's surprised look, Shenye couldn't help the smile on the corner of his mouth. In any case, he never thought that the ability he taught came from himself, but he hadn't reached that age yet. Traveling to this period can be said to be an opportunity for Shenye to teach and learn from himself. It's actually very simple. As long as you practice a little, you can fully master it. But it looks really hard. I said it's okay, and you have to remember one thing: once you master this ninjutsu, don't teach it to anyone, understand? Shenyi's face suddenly tightened, and he looked at Minato coldly. The latter realized the seriousness of the matter, and repeatedly nodded to Shenyi to promise that he would not spread it to the outside world. Pulling out the shuriken from the tree trunk, Kamiya jumped to Minato's side. Looking at the shuriken in his hand, Minato noticed something unusual. Unlike ordinary shurikens, these two had some subtle marks on them. Are these marks the key to the Flying Thunder God technique? That's right, maybe you don't need me to teach you anything at all. Take these two shurikens back and study them carefully. Minato took the shuriken carefully, and put it in his ninja tool pocket like a treasure. Then he looked around to make sure no one was watching. It doesn't look like a long time has passed, but the sun looking carefully at the sky is already noon. Shenyi was a little strange. There were no traces of two people in the classroom. Didn't the teacher notice it? Perhaps for the teachers of the Ninja Academy, it doesn't matter whether these people study in the classroom. After all, their task is just to preach and learn. The morning time has passed. Let's go back to the classroom, otherwise we might anger the teacher. But we still have a guest here, who has been hiding for a long time. Minato frowned. He had been tensing his nerves for this practice, but he still didn't find the guy Shenyi mentioned. Unexpectedly, your sense of smell is so keen, then I will not hide myself. There was a sound in the woods during training, and Minato sounded a little familiar, but he couldn't figure out who this guy was anyway. Shenyi stared at the darkness in the woods, and a petite figure slowly appeared, with jet black hair tied together and falling behind his head. Nara Shikahisa, what is the purpose of you sneaking after the two of us? I just watched the two of you leave suddenly in the classroom, and I was curious, so I followed. So are you satisfied with the result? It's a little far away and I can't see clearly what the two of you are doing, but your strength amazes me very much. Before Minato and Lu Ju both had time to react, Shenyi rushed to Lu Ju in an instant with fierce force from his feet. A strange smile appeared on Shenyi's face, and a large amount of chakra condensed in the palm of his hand landed on Lu Ju's body. By the time Lu Ju reacted, the attack was over. However, Lu Ju groped his body up and down twice, but found nothing unusual, as if everything just now was just an illusion. Don't be surprised, I never thought about what to do to you at all. In fact, at the moment when he came into contact with Shikaku Nara, Shenyi had already silently recited the system stealing skills in his heart. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining Nara Shikahisa's skill, Shadow Mimicry, through skill stealing. Skill cooling time, 3 hours. Patting Nara Shikahisa on the shoulder, Kamiya put a smile on his face again. After all, the guy in front of him might be his future teammate, so it's better not to scare him. Before recovering from the shock, Minato walked up a few steps and put his hand on Lu Ju's shoulder. Shenyi is actually a very good person, and we will all be good brothers in the future. It seems that Minato and Lu Ju talk a lot on weekdays. Facing Minato, Lu Ju is not embarrassed. Since the three of us left the classroom together, why not try the delicious Ichiraku ramen? Agree. Without any hesitation, the three walked together towards Yale. All kinds of people walking on the street looked at the three of them from time to time, as if they were looking at bad boys. After all, if a boy of this age is not in the ninja academy at this time, he is a piece of garbage without any cultivation ability at all, or a small moth in the village. But the three of them didn't care about such eyes at all, they just wanted to eat the steaming ramen in their mouths. 3. I have a business here, do you want to try it? It is enough for the three of you to eat, drink and have fun every day. A strange ninja suddenly appeared in the middle of the road. Although the forehead guard on his forehead came from Muya village, it made people unable to arouse his liking. Lu Ju looked at this guy vigilantly, and subconsciously blocked Shenyi and Minato behind his back. Such a small action was completely caught by Shenyi in his eyes, and a warm current inevitably flowed through his heart. But at this time, the strength of the three of them together may not be the opponent of this guy in front of him, so we should be careful. Let's hear it. It just so happens that the three of us don't have money to eat ramen. There is a scroll in Hokage's office. If you can bring it to me, it's not just for today's ramen, but for every day in the future. Shenyi pouted. This guy really regarded himself as a young and ignorant child. Before Shenyi could react, Minato had already stepped forward to attack. You are a traitor in the village. If you want me to help you steal the secrets of Master Hokage, you'd better catch him without a fight. He's really an impulsive boy. The weird ninja shook his head helplessly, and with a wave of his hand, he cast a barrier around him, and he could no longer see the crowds on the street. Shenyi said inwardly that it was not good. At this time, the stealing skill was still cooling down, and it was difficult to defeat him with the ability he had already mastered. This guy is pretending to be Jiraiya-sama, let's be careful. Shadow binding technique. Shikahisa Nara ignored this guy at all, and wanted to use his ninjutsu to instantly control this guy to facilitate Minato and Kamiya's next actions. But this guy in front of him is not as simple as Lu Ju imagined. The little tricks also want to control me. Look where there are shadows. I don't know what kind of ninjutsu this guy used. A large dark cloud appeared in the enchantment to block all the light, and Shikajo's ninjutsu directly lost its effect. Shenyi was running through the countermeasures rapidly in his mind, and finally decided to use the combination of immortal mode and strange power to break the barrier to create a gap. You two follow in my footsteps, don't fall behind. Minato and Shikaju nodded one after another, and put all their attention on Shenyi, completely ignoring that guy. The weird ninja frowned. Although he really wanted to completely wipe out these three little guys in this enchantment, but because of Muya village's chassis, he needed to restrain himself. Strange power. Circulating the operation of chakra in the sage mode on weekdays, Shenyi condensed chakra on his fist. Suddenly, some uncontrollable power spread out aimlessly towards the surroundings. Too bad, I even forgot that this small body can't control such a huge force for the time being. I hope it can have some effect. The rumbling sound resounded in the ears of everyone in the enchantment, and the surroundings began to pour into little bits of sunlight. A smile appeared on Shen Yi's face. It seemed that the plan this time had been successful, but it was a pity that he didn't keep that guy. We have to report this matter to the third generation as soon as possible. We have seen a guy pretending to be Jiraiya. Hopefully we're seeing him for who he is, but it always feels like he's hiding something if he can. Minato and Shikaku have the same worry. As a member of the Nara family, Shikaku has perfectly maintained the family inheritance and is very avant-garde in thinking. Even so, I still have to report this matter to Sendai Hokage. That guy is getting more and more arrogant in the village. The three of them looked at each other. They couldn't care less about continuing to eat Ichiraku ramen, and hurried towards Hokage's office. At the door, he collided head-on with Tsunade, who was walking out of the door, and Shenya threw himself on Tsunade's body. Shikahisa and Minato swallowed their saliva at the same time. If other male ninjas had collided at such close range, they would probably face Tsunade's ruthless power next. However, after seeing clearly that it was Kamiya, Tsunade squatted down with a gentle expression on his face. "Did it hurt you, little Shenye? Now is not the time to talk about these things. I have something very important to report to the third generation. Please listen to it, Tsunade-san." Tsunade nodded. Looking at the expressions of Shenyi and the other two guys, he knew that the matter was very serious. Pushing open the door of the office again, but there was no figure of Sarutobi Hiruzen from the third Hokage inside. Tsunade frowned suspiciously, only left briefly for a minute, and Sendai left. "Before you left, were the three generations still in the room?" "Yes, after such a short time, he left, and we didn't see how he left at all." "Is this the movie level? I still don't understand something now." Tsunade smiled, raised his hand and gently scratched Shenya's nose. "Little guy, what are you thinking about? One day you will become a more powerful ninja. By the way, what is it that makes the three of you look flustered?" "We saw the guy pretending to be Jiraiya, but he ran away." Tsunade instantly put away the smile on his face. This matter is not only very important to the third generation, but also to the entire village. After patrolling for several days, he still couldn't find the existence of this guy. He is definitely a strong opponent. If this guy is not found out for a day, the village will never truly calm down. The calm we see today is only a superficial phenomenon, and the background is full of turbulence, danger and crisis. You three, be careful. Since that guy took the initiative to find you, he will definitely not let it go easily. Shenyi nodded. He naturally understood this truth, but with his current strength, he was not yet fully sure of arresting him. But with the help of many ninjas in Konoha village, the result is completely different. "Master Tsunade, we left first, and I trouble you to report this matter to the third generation." Minato tugged at the corners of Leluju and Shenyi, and gestured with their eyes, and the latter immediately understood what he was thinking. Waving goodbye to Tsunade, the three walked in the direction of Ninja Academy without any communication along the way. When three smart people are together, they only need one look to understand each other's thoughts. Although it was only a brief battle, there was already a full tacit understanding. Back in the classroom of the school happened to be standing in front, and there was no afternoon teaching. "The guy doesn't seem to realize we weren't here this morning. I really hope that guy can come here to see how our teacher will deal with the sudden battle." Luju patted Shenye and Minato on the shoulders, and looked towards the window, where a familiar figure was sitting. The two of them followed the direction of Luju's eyes, and they turned out to be an uninvited visitor from that village. Even with a different face, it was still very easy to determine his identity. Minato was about to get up and speak out about this matter, while many people were here to fix him up. However, Shenyi pressed his shoulders, looked at Minato and shook his head slightly. "If it is publicized now, it will cause panic. That's right, he is an extremely dangerous guy, our classmates can't resist his bombardment." Restless all afternoon, no matter whether it was Luju or Minato, their eyes kept falling on that guy, for fear that he would suddenly get into trouble. But until after school, he didn't make any moves, and even listened more carefully than other students. In the blink of an eye, that guy disappeared from the seat, and Kamiya looked at Shikajiu and Minato suspiciously, and found that the two of them were also unclear. Obviously, my eyes have been on him, but I didn't find out how he left. I think he accidentally caught his illusion, but we don't need to worry, the village must have stepped up its search. Shenyi, what are you guys discussing? School is over, should we go home together? Yuexing pulled Ju Shinai to appear in front of the three of them. The fiery red hair and pure white eyes were particularly conspicuous among the many girls. Lu Ju coughed twice to ease the embarrassment, and then walked towards the door alone. Shenyi nodded, and walked home with Yuexing. If he wanted to go back to the Hyuga family's house, he had to pass through Tsunade's house, so all this seemed to be going well. Standing at the door of Tsunade's house, Kamido watched Yuexing's back disappearing into the corner of the street little by little. I only stole one skill today, which is a bit of a waste of the system's magical skills. Shenyi rubbed his chin, carefully thinking about where to go to find the next target and perfect his ninjutsu. Just when Shenyi was at a loss, a guy wearing a forehead guard walked past in front of him. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, and he quickly followed behind that guy, and patted her on the shoulder when he wasn't paying attention. Steal skills. The ability of the system was activated silently in his heart, and at the same time, a smiling expression appeared on his face. Where is Sister Hong going? It's Kamiya, why is he here alone? Isn't Tsunade at home? Just as I was about to enter the room, I saw you passing by, so I came to say hello to you, and I missed you a little bit. Yuhi turned red and white and cast a glance at Kamiya, with a fair face matched with sweet words. No wonder Tsunade likes him so much. Even Yu Hahong at this time couldn't help but want to hold Shenyi in her arms, but his height no longer allowed such a thing to happen. Seeing the anticipation on Shenya's face, Shi Hahong couldn't hold back in the end, bent slightly and patted Shenya's small head. My sister also misses you very much, but there are still important tasks on her body, so I can't play with you this time, and I will definitely next time. There was a reluctance on Shenya's face, but he wanted to break up quickly and check what skills he had stolen this time. When Kurenai Yuhi was parting, she lightly kissed Shenye on the forehead, turned around and continued walking on the street ahead. System, what skill did you steal from Yuhihong this time? Ding, congratulations to the host for successfully stealing Yuhihong's skill, Chakra Perception. Skill cooldown time, 3 hours. Faint. Shenyi didn't expect that this time it was another auxiliary ninjutsu, which didn't help his current combat power in the slightest. But with this ninjutsu, at least you can perceive that guy is nearby in advance. Thinking back carefully, Shenyi found that this day was the most fulfilling day since he came to this world. Although compared with the first day, the eyesight is lacking a lot, but you can feel the charm of this world more intuitively. Anyway, let's practice it. Auxiliary ninjutsu can often play a decisive role. Shenyi returned directly to her room, and started practicing according to the information in her mind. Unknowingly, the sky outside gradually darkened, but Shenyi didn't feel it at all, and devoted himself to the practice. There was a creaking sound, and Shenyi was interrupted in his practice, and looked at the door vigilantly. If Tsunade had returned home, he would never have made such a sound. Someone must have crept in. As the door of the room slowly opened, a beam of light shone in. Shenyi instantly saw that the guy standing at the door was not Tsunade, but a male ninja, and the outline was even somewhat familiar. Brother Jiraiya, what are you sneaking here for? Tsunade's travel mission is not over yet. I'm afraid you will starve, so I asked me to come and take you to eat something. Then why hesitate? Yield ramen. I was going to eat ramen with Shikaku and Minato, but that guy was delayed. Now that the opportunity came, Shenye followed Zilai and left the house without thinking, and sat down in front of Yil after a while. Boss Yil, 2 bowls of ramen are the old rules. Shenyi, what do you think about that guy in the village? The strength should be almost the same as yours, and it looks like an old spy, very experienced. Jilai also nodded, and gave Shenye a very appreciative glance. He was able to see so thoroughly at a young age, and he believed that he would be a very good ninja in the future. After a while, Yil brought out 2 steaming bowls of ramen and placed them in front of the 2 of them. Smelling the wafting hot air, Shenyi could already feel the aroma shuttle back and forth in his body, and couldn't help picking up chopsticks to eat. Jilai also shook his head with a smile, and sent the ramen to his mouth as quickly. From the perspective of other people around, these two guys seemed to have not eaten for a long time, and they seemed to be reincarnated from starvation. Yil was also shocked by such a scene, and hurriedly continued to make new ramen and placed it not far from Shenye and Jiraiya. There's still a lot here, you two, slow down. Bang Shin, well, 5 of you can do it. Yil grinned. The two guys obviously stuffed their mouths full, and couldn't even utter a complete sentence. In just a few breaths, the ramen in Shenya's bowl had bottomed out, and Zilai also came from behind and quickly wiped out all the ramen. The two of them patted their stomachs contentedly, and just a bowl of ramen was enough to satisfy their fullness all day long. Let me introduce you to a new friend. In detail, the two of you will get along. Oh, Shen Yi's interest was suddenly aroused by Zilai, and the guy who could interest Shen Yi at the moment couldn't figure out who it was. Putting a few gold coins on the table, Jiraiya turned and walked in the other direction. In order to find out, Shen Yi hurriedly followed behind him, but looking at the direction of travel, it seemed that he was heading outside the village. Shen Yi frowned. Could it be that the Jilai in front of him was really faked by that guy, trying to destroy himself while no one was around? Chakra perception. Quietly, Shenye put his feelings to the maximum, and unscrupulously visited Jiraiya's body back and forth, without hiding it. It doesn't matter if he is discovered, if he is really a fake Jiraiya, he will be exposed sooner or later. As one of the 3 ninjas, Jiraiya also noticed something strange as soon as Shenye made a move, but he didn't make any noise. I'm just curious, when did Kamiya learn Kureni Yuhi's ninjutsu? After some careful probing, Shenye was sure that the guy in front of him was the real Jiraiya, and he had the latest issue of Intimate Paradise around his waist. However, Shenye has no interest in this book at all, and there is a beautiful woman at home, so why bother to be obsessed with a novel? In the dark night, it can be clearly seen that continuing forward is to leave the village through the gate, but Zilai still has no intention of staying. Brother Jiraiya, where are you going to take me? It's so mysterious. That guy is guarding the gate, and the only way to see him is outside the village. Shen Yi rolled his eyes, and he already knew the answer in his heart. There are no weak people who guard the gate of Muya village, and each one is stronger than the other. The only one who can make Jiraiya so caring is that guy called Little Uchiha, Yamashiro Aoba. Can use the Uchiha family's fire and fireball technique, and can control the crow to attack at the same time. Quack, quack. A flock of crows suddenly appeared in the sky, circling above Shenye and Jiraiya. Jilai also stopped and looked up at the sky, waiting quietly with his arms around his chest, with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. Is this how you greet old friends and children? Appearing here so late, I think you have no good intentions. The figure of Aoba Yamashiro appeared among the crowd of crows, and a black shadow slowly fell to the ground under his feet. Looking at it harshly, this way of appearing on the stage is enough to bluff people. Why did you bring this little guy here? The current village is secretly full of turmoil, and there are many unfavorable rumors targeting Shenye. For me, Shen Yi pointed at his nose in disbelief. Could it be that the peeping incident is still pointing at him? Yamashiro Aoba nodded, took out a scroll from behind her back and handed it to Shenya, then jumped to Jiraiya's side and started greeting. Shen Yi opened the scroll blankly and walked away. It said that Shen Yi could not be allowed to leave the village for half a step in the near future until that guy was caught. Before reading all the content, Shen Yi threw the scroll to the ground. Although it was me who was peeping from above the women's bathhouse, it was too much to associate myself with that guy. More importantly, Sarutobi Hiruzen still didn't believe him even though he had already reported that guy's appearance together with Shikaku and Minato. It seems that Tsunade is not clear about this matter, otherwise, with her temper, there will definitely be a big fuss in the office. With such great strength, what should I do if my scroll is broken? Yamashiro Aoba carefully picked up the scroll, wiped off the dust and put it in his pocket. Feeling Jiraiya's gaze, Shenye suddenly understood something. The purpose of Jiraiya bringing himself here was not simple. He was probing, taking advantage of Tsunade's absence and no one around, to thoroughly find out his own details. If it is a spy, it will be wiped out. If it is not, you can also make a tip-off statement. Brother Jiraiya, you don't believe me by the way you look. Just for the safety of the village, Tsunade trusts you very much, but I need some proof. Mapai, I still need to prove to you whether I am a good man or not. If I had the power of a spy, I would have killed you too long ago. With a slight smile on Jiraiya's face, he looked at Shenye quietly. The same is true for the mountain city Aoba on one side, but compared to Jiraiya, he is more nervous. This time it was Shenye's turn to make trouble. No matter what, he couldn't turn his face against the two of them at this time. If he was really treated as a spy, the previous lies would come to naught. Brother Chingye, come over to me, I can prove it to you. Aoba Yamashiro looked at Jiraiya, who nodded to indicate that there would be no accidents. Aoba slowly walked towards Shenye, his expression still full of vigilance. Shenye patted him lightly twice, silently activating the skill stealing in his heart. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully stealing the skill of Mountain City Greenleaf, the art of 3,000 crows. Stealing skill cooling time, 3 hours. Shenye nodded in satisfaction, and then ran frantically in one direction. Aoba Yamashiro was stunned and was about to go after him, but Jiraiya stopped him. As a ninja guarding the entrance of the village, he was not allowed to leave his post without authorization. It's better to leave it to me to chase him, and you will take good care of him here. Jiraiya also twisted his neck, and rushed out in the direction of Shenya's escape with fierce force under his feet, and approached Shenya's back in just a few breaths. Brother Jiraiya is so fast, I thought that preemptive strikes could open up some distance. I'm sure you're not a spy, but following your footsteps now seems to find him. Shenye shook his head helplessly while continuing to run forward. He had only one target at this time, and that was a small house in the village. When he released his perception ability to test Jiraiya, Shenye had already discovered where that guy was hiding. I said, Brother Jiraiya, when did you stare at me? You hid it so well. This is a secret, but I have always believed in you, but I was forced to use this method to find that guy. Shenye also knew this truth, although the spy wandering in the village was recognized by everyone as a guy pretending to be Jiraiya. But only Shenye and Yu Xing knew that that guy had never done such a thing. As a child who suddenly appeared in the village, it was understandable for the spy to set his sights on him. Such an identity could provide him with a good cover. But another doubt arose spontaneously in Shenye's heart. If he really wanted to take the blame for himself, why would he show up in front of Shikaku and Minato and fight? At this moment, he couldn't care less about thinking so deeply, and Zilai was already running side by side with Shenye, turning his head to look at Shenye with a smile from time to time. After traveling for a while, the two stopped at the door of an inconspicuous room one after another. Looking at the dust accumulated at the door, it seemed that no one had entered the house for a long time, and Zilai couldn't help wondering whether Shenye had found that guy accurately. Shish, let's go in quietly. Shenye had already released her perception ability, but found that there was a layer of enchantment surrounding the room, and she didn't detect the situation inside at all. Zilai is also here. Even if you really meet that guy, there is nothing to worry about, and you can completely win by cooperating with Shenye's attack. Slowly pushing open the door of the room, a burst of dust flew in the air. Looking at the faint moonlight, there was nothing in the room. After wiping the dust on the ground, Shenye judged that no one had come in here for a long time. It was not like a disguise. It seems that we are looking in some wrong directions. This is not the guy's hiding place. Smart opponent, deliberately left a strong smell here. Let us rush to nothing. Perhaps he is observing here, and he will be more vigilant from today on. Jilai also nodded, waved his hands to clear the flying dust in front of him and walked out of the room. Shenye stayed for a while and left as well. The two stood under the moonlight, speechless. In the end, it was Jiraiya who broke the silence and stretched out his hand towards Shenye. I'm very sorry for what happened today. Not only did I not trust you, but I even wanted to use you. I know you are doing everything for the village, and we need to work together to catch that guy. Shenye also stretched out his hand and held Jiraiya's hand tightly, and the knot in Jiraiya's heart was untied at this moment. However, Shenye's heart is full of contempt. If it weren't for the fact that only Konoha village is safe in the ninja world at this time, he would have to tear himself apart with Jiraiya today. Mappy, this is the first time I have received such treatment since I was a child. How will I teach you when I steal a few more skills? Of course, all of this is self-initiated and unclear, and he even believes in his heart that there is not a single rift between himself and Shenyi. But even after experiencing such a thing, Shenyi just wanted to teach Zilai a lesson, and didn't have any annoying thoughts. It's getting late, Sister Tsunade may have returned, I'm going home. Shenyi turned around and walked towards his home, leaving Zaraya with a handsome back. Zilai, who was belatedly aware of it, suddenly realized that something was wrong, and hurriedly chased after Shenyi. In the entire ninja world, there is probably only one person who can make Jiraiya fear from the bottom of his heart.